Welcome to the Lost Lowdown podcast 128 with your hosts, Claude and Justin.
What's up, guys?
We are back continuing our season 2 commentary series with episode 221 question mark. Everyone's favorite punctuation episode.
It is. Yeah. It's definitely better than semicolon.
I was always waiting for them to do exclamation mark.
It would have been cool. It would have been a good follow-up.
Yeah. I feel like maybe somehow the constant is like exclamation mark.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would fit.
Yeah, I mean, they like doing that thing where they would refer to the titles later, and maybe it's just the fact that Mr. Echo dies so quickly. Maybe if he made it to season 5 or 6 or whatever, like they planned, they would have had exclamation mark later on.
Yeah, I like that.
I could see that happening, because I think it definitely it's a strange thing. I remember at the time it reminded me of Pi. Just the idea of a symbol as your title.
Yeah.
And it made it seem really interesting. And they were gonna like get to the bottom of the blast format mystery. That whole thing. But I think there's something. I don't know. I think the Mr. Echo character is kind of strange on the show, because I feel like he pushed the show in certain directions that I guess they gave some of his subplots to other characters, but I think there's something slightly different going on when he's around on Lost.
He's the, I think, when you have Man of Science versus Man of Faith, I think he is the second major character who's on the Man of Faith side of the team.
Yeah.
And I think that pushes the show towards that direction. And then you have the fact that they do this weird reversal where Echo shows up to believe in, the island just as Locke decides not to.
Right.
And they have this conflict about it right when you're like, oh, okay, here's somebody who supports this weird supernatural side of things.
And Locke's like, no.
And Locke's like, no. And I think this is when you really start to have that recurring theme of Locke being annoying.
Right.
Of when he starts to really waver on the thing that makes him interesting. He starts to go. This is one of probably the first time he goes like back and forth. Starts to go back and forth, and he'll do that for the rest of his time up until he's being hung by Finn. Is he still questioning what's going on? And that's an interesting juxtaposition when you look at what's going to happen with Echo and how he exits the show,
Yeah.
in a much more decisive way of like knowing at least what he's standing for and dying for.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's a big difference. And Locke, his final thoughts are, I don't understand. And
okay, Locke's, that's such an interesting juxtaposition. Locke's final thoughts as he's being hung in a motel room by Ben is, I don't understand why Echo is facing a smoke monster.
I know.
He seems to have it more figured out.
And he's like, yes, I refuse to apologize. I will not confess, blah, blah, blah. I did what I had to, whatever. And he's like, basically do what you want.
Yeah.
Like, it's on you now. And like accepting his fate. Yeah, it's totally different. It's this grandiose finale that like Locke just didn't get. A pathetic death in a motel room.
What you thought the guy who, Locke, who first saw the smoke monster, stared it down and survived.
Yeah.
You think he would have that ending like that Echo got.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so, oh my God, it's just so pathetic. I mean, he had this pathetic side to his character, obviously in the flashbacks and stuff, but the whole point, I thought, was that, being on the island, being in this crazy environment, like brought out these qualities that he was able to sort of rise above his patheticness and become like someone who did things that mattered and, had some sense of importance to his life. And was looked up to by or at least feared by the other people in the camp, So it definitely feels like they they really stuck on that path, and he was just constantly in doubt of himself.
It's funny, the way you just described him is almost what they got when Man in Black comes back as Locke.
I know.
And he is kind of the leader, but he's a leader through fear, right? He's not a leader as if he earned it through providing and securing, their safety or anything like Jack might do.
Right.
As Jack was basically the leader, given the throne by Jacob. So like,
right.
That's interesting. Yeah, that they kind of did that, but in the bad way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like that's also why that portion of the show is like they haven't stepped on his character enough, but it's like ultimate fuck you. The guy who's like, the guy who's impersonating him, using the fact that he's dead to like assume his identity in order to accomplish his goals.
The identity thief, yeah.
Not only does he do that, but he also sort of realizes Locke's dreams, and he even knows that he's doing that because of the way he interacts with Ben and the way he interacts with Richard. He knows exactly the way Locke interacted with them before, and he's exactly fulfilling what he knows Locke wanted the most, and yet Locke is so very dead. and this is in no way fulfilling Locke's dreams at all. He did not want to serve as an avatar for the,
for evil incarnate.
Evil
his goal.
Exactly.
Wouldn't that have been great when we first meet his mom and they're at the diner and she's like, Locke, not only were you immaculately conceived, but you're gonna be the avatar for evil incarnate.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. No. I feel like, and again, it's also something that at the end of the show is disappointing to me. Like, as far as I can tell, he never found out, what happened after he died. And
wow, did we ever talk about that?
I feel like we must have.
Must have, but that's such an interesting thing that they didn't actually make it clear that he knew Man in Black, tried to kill them all with his face on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, because they don't really talk about it, the only stuff that Locke really talks about is he talks with Ben about the fact that he killed him, but it's like the stuff he remembers from his life. Mm-hmm. It's not stuff that happened after he died. Oh yeah, but then after you died, the smoke monster took your form, and
but that makes sense. Why would he know that, right? Mm-hmm. Unless somebody tells him. So
exactly.
I guess when you're dead in purgatory, you don't have this omniscience of everything that happened that you weren't a part of. So.
Yeah, exactly. I get the sense that they, first of all, they didn't know.
So all their losties are like, okay, guys, listen, don't tell Locke what happened. This is gonna ruin eternity for him if he finds out that's how he went out.
I know, but it's like he would be very disappointed in a way, but also, he didn't get to learn that, Jacob had selected them to be candidates to replace him to be the protector of the island. He would love to know that.
Do you think he'd be interested in that?
I think so. I think that's exactly the kind of thing he would want to know.
Wow. And, what you mean validation of his core beliefs?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if that's appealing, that might interest him.
Yeah, and it's like Jack got to find out, but he didn't even really want it. Like, he had to be pushed into it.
Yep.
He had to have Jacob maneuvering to make him.
That's definitely another tragic irony of the show and of for Locke in particular is he gets screwed over. So he doesn't get to be like cool like Echo in his belief and get that cool death. He doesn't get to be the kind of like leader of the others as Man in Black came back in his form as
right,
and he doesn't get to be Jack, bequeathed by Jacob as the leader of the island,
right.
So he gets like none of the things other people got. He like the things he would have wanted ultimately he got none of, and everyone who didn't want them got it.
I know.
And then you look back and you go, is that a really good show? why? Because to me that means that the writers hate his character.
That's the way it feels.
That means that, no, listen, guys, as cool as Locke might have seemed, he's just destined for non-greatness, and you really should have never rooted for him.
That's what it feels like. I mean, it's strange because I want to think they didn't actually feel that way about his character, but there's a lot of evidence. I mean, he fucking Ben hands over the others to him, and he walks over to Richard, and he's like, "Hello, Richard," and Richard's like, "John, we've been waiting for you." And then 2 seconds later, he disappears because they start time traveling. It's like he gets nothing. He never gets the chance to enjoy any of that. And then he just runs around bumbling until Ben finally kills him.
He goes, okay, so not only that, right, but he the days before his death, his murder, he goes to his most trusted friends in the entire world.
Yeah. The people who matter to him the most.
The people he's going to spend eternity with, ultimately.
Exactly.
He begs for their help, and they all turn him down.
And they all tell him, like, you're crazy, you have psychological issues, like, you need to deal with that.
I'm laughing because I'm so sad for him.
It's so really sad. It really is. It really is. It's unbelievably sad, really.
Yeah.
Because it's not the arc that you expect for a character. You expect that character to get some kind of victory or some kind of vindication, And he just really didn't. I mean, the closest he got is Jack made some remarks, snapped back at Man in Black later and sort of defended him. But it feels to me really weak.
Which Locke never knew about.
Exactly.
He'll never know about that. Yeah.
He'll never know. Exactly. He doesn't know all that. And so it's just even if he did, though, it's so minor compared to how much he was, stepped on and just, used by other characters and, in a sense, by the writers, as a tool, as just a thing that operates in a certain way that serves an excellent function, but who gets
like when they need a submarine blown up for no apparent reason.
Exactly. Exactly. He's really good for that, But he never really knows what he's doing. Like, he spends his whole time there just having no idea what's going on. And he never got the cool answers. Like, Sun gets to find out that,
I wonder how much, how much that affected what people think about the end of the show in terms, how much in terms of how they depicted the end of Locke's character.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he had gotten a more heroic, character arc, if people wouldn't have liked him more.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would have made a difference. Obviously, that doesn't sort of change everything in terms of the show, but it definitely could have made for a more satisfying. The thing is, his death is such a linchpin for the whole arc that it's hard for me to even imagine the show where he doesn't die like that.
I think him dying is fine, but I think they just there's several moments in the show where they really didn't, in the context of how they ended it, didn't capitalize on the stuff like the time travel, just the supernatural elements that could have made the storytelling really inventive. Yeah. And have him die, but have something weird with the time traveling, have him still be there in a future time period too.
Right.
Where he can have some sort of ending to his story. He's fighting Man in Black, on the cliff or whatever.
Yeah.
And sacrifices himself and die,
Right.
But he's already dead in the past because Ben killed him or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They could have really used the things that made the show cool for atmosphere. That really, and again, like when they missed it with the incident, right?
Right.
It's like they didn't really make it where it mattered that the Losties went back into the 70s
Yeah.
what happened with the incident. It was kind of like, no, here's a cool detail about what's going on, but it's just a plot device.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's very strange. It's very strange when they don't like emphasize points that seem like they should matter a lot, and then they spend time on other things that I don't know why. It's very confusing, I think. I agree. I it would have been nice. I don't see I think there is like an interesting quality to the sort of ultimate tragedy of the character, and I can kind of appreciate that. But yeah, I do wish there had been. I feel like the character deserves some kind of, I don't know what.
Yeah, I think there is if you really look at how they wrote his character as just a tragic character, like it is something interesting about that.
Yeah.
But I think you have to explain also why, because none of it was his fault.
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
if they're making a point, obviously so much of this is just kind of organic to how they told the story, right? So there's not a huge theme about
Right.
they're trying to say Locke is just this eternal loser.
Yeah.
But I mean, they would still, for it to really work, I think we would need to have to really understand why, because I think otherwise you're just beating up on a character who doesn't really deserve it. Like, you start him off, a guy who's disrespected by everyone in his life, and his father, his estranged father, steals his kidney. So he's already, one of the most tragic characters ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's starting off pretty good. And then on top of that, his greatest, the greatest thing he will ever experience, his time on the island, which could vindicate his entire existence,
Yeah.
is worse.
Yeah.
Is unimaginably worse than his regular life. So it's kind of like Jacob made everything worse for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like bringing him to
Exactly.
the island.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty strange thing. And again, it's to end it like that, when you have him starting off as such a cool character,
Right.
the audience doesn't expect that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think even, the fans like noticed that, after season one, I mean, for me, the turning point was the end of season one. Like Locke turned this corner, and yeah, he kind of stopped being a cool character, and he really got very stuck in this kind of whiny, kind of pathetic, sort of constant self-doubt mode. And he would occasionally stop doing it, but he always ended up back there, no matter what happened. He would take these steps, he would do this grand thing, and then he would be filled with doubt about whether it was the right decision, and someone like Ben or the smoke monster would come along and convince him to do something else, and then he'd end up miserable again, before he actually died. And so I think even before he died, like, there was already a sort of downward trajectory for the character. And I thought that having him go through all that over all that time, would have some kind of payoff in the end.
Yeah.
But I guess,
and that's the thing. He at his dying moment, he doesn't even get what it was
right.
all for.
Right. Right. It's
he
like,
doesn't even get that final epiphany of like, well, he went through hell his entire life, but at least he understood something that no one else will ever understand about something.
Right. Right. Like, yeah, I would love if he had some kind of. I feel like he deserved to understand. Like
his dying words should have been, "I get it now."
Right.
Do you know how that would have blown everybody's mind of what that meant?
Absolutely.
That would have made us desperate to see him in the Flash sideways, to have to explain himself.
Yeah.
Actually, it would have been a mirror image to when he looked into Smokey and said it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a mirror image to that moment of like, explain what you meant by that.
Right.
And that would have been really, really, really cool if it was the opposite of what they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Totally. Because it's like, it's tragic enough already, but then it's like he doesn't even understand what's going on. And it's like I'm kind of amazed that after Ben trying to kill him and then manipulating him when they went to the barracks and were hanging out there for a while, and the fact that he shows up again when he's on the verge of suicide and manipulates it. I'm surprised he didn't, after all that time, understand why Ben was killing him, for example. you know
You mean when there's a pattern of he's with Ben and things get really bad?
Yes.
He didn't recognize that pattern.
Yes, and that like Ben's behavior suggested that he was jealous of Locke, and that he felt, which wasn't really deserved, I think, but like he was jealous of Locke for reasons that really were out of Locke's control. Yeah. But actually, he was kind of manipulated into being jealous of Locke, but he was, but I feel like Locke should have realized that, and should have been more wary of his manipulations after the 13th time,
Yeah, that's another thing that makes his character tragic, is they made him not very savvy. When they made him very gullible.
Exactly, and I think if you can say that he had a tragic flaw, like that would be it.
Yeah.
Like if anything is his fault, sure, quote unquote, it's that. It's the fact that he
lets anyone talk him into anything.
Yeah,
and I think that means that his character arc has to be the opposite of that, right? It has to be growing to someone who makes his own choice and sticks to it. Like, I don't know, Jack.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally, exactly, and Jack's arc was fine, Yeah. I think they did a good job with that. It's just
Jack kind of goes the opposite way. He starts to question more,
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's the symmetry you tacitly expect when you're watching this show. Yes, it's an ensemble show, but they pitted Jack and Locke together, and they were like, listen, there's two ways to look at what's going on this island. Here are your two characters that are going to symbolize that. But they didn't get similar character arcs.
Right.
And that's what should have happened. Like, they should have both gone 180 by, or around, that by the end of the show. And Jack sort of did, and Locke flatlined.
Yeah. I mean, he never really got out of that rut, I think, because he was being manipulated by people just all the way up to his death, constantly. He's sent to, the time traveling thing is originally the impetus of the Man in Black, because he's the one that tells him to move the island. Then even the second time when he goes down to Donkey Wheel, telling him to get the Oceanic Six back and all that, that's also Man in Black. Then he comes out of the place in Tunisia where it pops out, and there's Widmore. Widmore's now gonna tell him what to do, and then. And then he goes around and does stuff.
The man he was supposed not to trust. Yeah.
Yes. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll listen to Widmore now. And then, finally, what's his name? Abaddon is killed. And then he's not able to convince anyone. So he's just going to kill himself. And then Ben shows up,
Yeah. That's again, that's the double, suck. I don't know what else to call it. Like the tragedy of just, he was already about to kill himself.
Yeah.
They didn't even let him commit suicide.
I know.
He
couldn't even have the dignity of like a self-sacrificial
of dying on his own terms. Yeah,
exactly. Which is, I feel like, what Mr. Echo gets in a certain sense.
It's inhumane.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you wouldn't wish that on your enemy. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I feel like gullibility is not. It just doesn't deserve that much punishment.
Look at Forrest Gump. He was a national hero after being gullible and simple.
What a comparison. Locke's the Forrest Gump of Lost.
Listen, they both traveled through important events through time.
True.
Forrest Gump ended up a lot better.
I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. It's very true. But yeah, I don't. I just. I find it amazing that even though he had so much doubt, it's just such a strange character type. Like he's filled with doubt about his own destiny, and if anyone will tell him that he has a destiny and that he should do this or that, then he's very willing to listen. But then he immediately sort of doubts it. So it's just this crazy mix of like desperation and like an overwillingness to follow mixed with like doubting everything and feeling everything's pointless all the time.
Now he kind of sounds mentally unstable. Like I feel like he needed some medications to settle him.
I think yeah. I mean, I think he was functional, but yeah, if you look at that psychological profile, it really does seem extremely unstable.
Yeah.
And it's not surprising that he ended up in so many
Well, listen,
situations.
I guess it's not surprising he has trust issues. The problem is
Right.
he it's not that he should not trust anyone, right? That's the default when
Yeah.
people have misused your trust. Usually we see characters who
Right.
okay, they're like Ana Lucia or somebody who's like or
Absolutely.
Sawyer who's like they're not you gotta warm up to them before they trust you.
Yeah.
And with Locke, it's like he immediately trusts you if you know the magic word,
Exactly.
which is destiny.
Yes. Yes.
And if you that's a direct line, and he'll just immediately trust you until his mistrust kicks in.
Which is
Because he
just the worst because that's what his dad did.
Yeah.
When, like he used the same thing against him.
Mhm.
And you would think after being burned by his own dad twice, by the way, it wasn't just the kidney. He also pushed him out of the fucking building.
He paralyzed him.
Yeah.
And didn't he also paid the mom to tell him
Yes.
he was immaculately concepted.
That's what I'm saying. Like he knew enough about Locke to like use
know that he would believe that Locke was so narcissistic in a way
Yeah.
that he needed to be so important as to be immaculately concepted
Exactly.
to explain away his tragic life. Yeah, no, he's the most tragic character on TV. I don't know who really beats him.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's really sad.
It's unbelievable. I'm still, yeah. I mean, there is something interesting about it, but it's also like extremely frustrating.
It'd be great for a novel. I'd like to read about this character. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to see him on a TV show.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I keep wanting him to succeed, and he just keeps letting me down over
Yeah.
and over and over again. And every little victory is met with like twice as many defeats.
Yeah, and he interferes with other people's victories.
Yeah.
So it's like, when we're trying to get off the island. Okay, he's gonna blow up the sub now.
Right. And then it's like, God damn it, Locke, stop. You're not helping anymore.
Yeah, it's bad enough you're screwing up your own life. Like now you're messing other people up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Jack was the kind of person who, when he, even in the last days when he felt like he had a destiny on the island and they were brought there for a reason and all that stuff. I mean, he was still willing to help the others try to leave.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he didn't think that just because he thinks he has a destiny there, he has to like try to force everyone to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's Locke's conclusion. Well, guess I gotta go blow it up. What else can I do?
Yeah, because somebody told me, or somehow I got the idea we're not supposed to leave. So I'm not gonna let anybody leave.
Yeah, exactly. And wow.
So question mark.
Yeah. But honestly, like, I think although this is actually an Echo-centric episode, I mean, a big part of this is the conflict between Echo and Locke.
Yeah.
And I think you're right that I do feel like, in a way, Echo, maybe once they decided sort of the trajectory of Locke's character, maybe Echo was gonna be there to sort of fill the other side of Locke's role that he couldn't really do if he was going to play this ultimate gullible, pathetic, sad tragic guy.
Mm-hmm.
But then he wanted to leave, and then there's sort of no one that really steps in to fill that role, I think. But uh, yeah, I really do like, even though his time is short, and in the long run of the show, like he doesn't really, I mean, they don't talk about him much later on. Um, I think he definitely had a huge impact on this period of the show, and he gave it this weird quality that I feel like, of all the other characters that that I think are really interesting, I feel like he was on this strange frequency that isn't really like any other character on the show. Like,
Yeah, for sure. He definitely stands out for a short amount of times on the show. He definitely stands out. I mean, from the very beginning, I mean, he's interesting.
yeah,
When he's in a collared shirt,
hmm
beating somebody to death with a rock,
yeah,
and it's kind of like he didn't want to do that.
right,
The actor is so good that there's all these emotions coming out of just that moment.
yeah,
And
totally.
you get you see his backstory, the drug lord days. Like
hmm
it's what Lost is great at. He's a great example of how the formula for Lost storytelling can make a really great character really fast.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And yeah.
Totally. And he had this, I mean, he was subject to manipulation as well, as we're about to see quite quickly. But he had a commitment, and I
Mhm.
think that's the thing that was frustrating about Locke. I mean, it's like, if you're going to follow the bad guy, at least, commit to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because he really believed in what he was doing, and so, like, that's why it was so impressive when he kills those others and then he doesn't speak for 40 days because of it. Like,
Mhm.
it's crazy. It's like, wow. And yet he doesn't say anything for so long, and yet, yeah, he's able to communicate these things and so once he does start speaking, it's a bigger thing.
Yeah, you are paying more attention to everything he does now after he starts talking, and yeah, and he was definitely more a person of action too. I think
Yeah,
Locke
definitely.
didn't know what to do. He'd sit around until something happened. But that
Right.
goes like, I'm gonna build a church now.
Yeah.
Whether or not I finish it's a different question, but I'm gonna start.
Exactly. It's I mean, as we find out in the flashback, it was sort of a commitment that he had, and he would try to be doing things all the time, and he tried to stop Locke from blowing up the hatch, but wasn't able to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then the smoke monster immediately shows up and sort of uh, abruptly ends his story. But yeah, I think you're right. It's sort of more satisfying, I think, for the audience to have a character who knows what they want, and just goes and tries to get it.
Yeah.
Instead of this thing that Locke has, where he's just like, oh, I don't know, maybe the hatch is my destiny, or maybe
Hmm.
blowing up the hatch is my destiny, or maybe I was wrong about that. It's just like,
Yeah. But hey, he knows when it's gonna rain. He's certain about that.
oh, that was so cool. I really wish they had an explanation for that.
I just think we missed the character who was going to sort of utilize what's cool about the island
Yeah,
and show that side of it, like master the island, basically, like
yeah,
Locke was doing in the beginning.
right.
um and but it's yeah, it's too tragic.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing. Nobody really, all this power on the island, and I guess maybe that's the point. Like, there's all this power on the island, and I guess besides Man in Black and
hmm
then Jacob, nobody really used it. Nobody was
right.
able to really use it, figure out enough about it, you
No.
know, even with Dharma, you know, harness it in any long term way that didn't explode or something.
Right.
You know, and maybe that's their point about that they shouldn't have tried.
Yeah, I think that.
Uh,
Yeah.
but it's kind of it's just weird to come to the island and I guess Rose and Bernard got to Rose got healed and that's that
Hmm.
long term, but
Yeah.
that's kind of a passive thing. But
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, they have that, Richard doesn't age, and yeah, like you said, the
mhm,
smoke monster's powers, and Jacob has some powers that, he could do some healing and stuff. So they sort of had that, but yeah, you're right. It definitely they suggested much more power than they ever really showed,
mhm,
and I think they were really vague about powers, like it's very strange, I think, Lost's approach to these things, because I rarely see uh, a show where there's all these supernatural things going on, but like they sort of keep it at as much of a distance as they can. So
mhm.
like, for example, you never see the smoke monster transforming, for example.
Yeah, yeah,
Like that's something that I sort of thought we would see at some point, but they just don't show it. You're not going to watch him actually do, something like that. So it's just sort of, he did it, but you don't really see how.
yeah, yeah. That's perfect visual example of how they're gonna depict their mysteries and stuff.
Exactly. And he can scan people for their memories and stuff, but they don't really take that as seriously as they could have. Like,
Hmm.
he uses it, but not as much, I think, as he could have. And
Yeah.
so, and then same thing with Jacob. Like, he could make people not age, and he had this weird power to like draw people to the island and heal people, but you don't ever really see him do much. you
Hmm.
know and when Jack becomes a protector, I mean, I remember sort of imagining like, oh, he must have these powers now, but like it didn't really seem like he did you know
Yeah, I got the sense it was like how they describe Maenads on True Blood. It was like,
yeah,
you had power on the island if you thought you had power, and it was
yeah,
kind of like the only reason Richard didn't age was because Jacob wanted Richard around for as long as Jacob was around,
mhm,
and that was what Jacob was thinking when he touched him. And that just happened to mean Richard was just gonna not age. It could have maybe uh, that the power could have manifested in some other way, perhaps.
mhm,
But it just seemed very, yeah, very passive, very like Jacob. Just looks at somebody on the off island and goes, "I want them here," and they just get pulled there. But he's not actually like crafting a spell
right,
or necessarily exerting willpower to make it happen.
right,
So it's very, besides Man in Black being smoky because he got the darkness on him or
mhm.
whatever, whatever
Uh-huh.
happened when he went into the light cave,
Yeah, yeah,
he stepped in some evil incarnate on the way
yeah.
out.
A puddle of evil.
Yeah, it got stuck on his shoe. And besides that, obviously being crazy,
Yeah,
it even seemed like Man in Black didn't know the extent of his powers. Obviously, as we've talked about.
of
Uh,
course. Yeah, the claiming thing. I mean, that was another thing that they hinted at, almost showed literally, but like in the end, they pulled back on it and they weren't willing to really make it a very concrete, explicit thing.
mhm.
Where he's like, "I'm going to claim you now, and now you will be evil." Like, that never happens. You know,
Yeah. Or
like,
even something, less melodramatic where he's like, "Hey, are you going to join my team or not?"
right,
Or are you with me or are you against me? Sort of an agreement to follow him is
right.
enough or something.
Right, and they had lines like that, but then you never felt like he was doing anything, or that he was even aware that he had
Hmm.
this effect on people. Whereas I think it would be cooler if he knew that
Yeah.
that he could do it.
I think like they should have explained that. Well, it was like with Claire, right? I mean,
Yeah,
like, what else explains her behavior?
right.
Like, that should be the explanation, and then the audience says, okay, Claire was acting really weird. She left her baby, then she just decided to live in the jungle and become like Jungle Jane,
Yeah.
and then like for no apparent reason. Why? How do you explain that? And then we go, okay, well, the claiming, and they go, no, not the claiming. And it's like, that's the obvious answer. Why can't we use the obvious answer? And it's like, nope, that's not it, guys. Sorry, look elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think the thing I also found weird about that is that they explicitly compared her to Rousseau, which suggests that Rousseau was claimed. But the problem with that is that no, she killed her team because they were claimed. So it's just like it doesn't add up, you know? It's like she didn't need to be claimed to go crazy, like, but they didn't really supply a reason for her to go crazy. So it's just sort of like, I don't know, the fact that everyone was gone.
It's almost like what they wanted to say was she went crazy because she thought everyone else was claimed. Like, that's kind of what they should have done to make her like Rousseau. But that's not what Claire said. It wasn't like she was like, I'm hiding out in the jungle because I can't trust anyone.
Yeah.
It was like, no, I'm just here because Locke is hanging out with me.
Exactly.
But it's not Locke.
Right.
You know.
And I mean, she even knows that. Like, I can sort of understand. I mean, it's, first her dad shows up, and then, he's Christian Shepherd, and he's talking to her and telling her stuff. And, like, at a certain point, I sort of understand why she's going crazy. It's just weird that, like, I mean, that's not what happened with Rousseau at all. And so it just doesn't seem like, it seems weird to draw the parallel if the stories are so different. It just makes the whole thing confused, and it's already bad enough, in terms
of... when she's in the cabin and she's like, I'm fine here, it's like, why?
Yeah, exactly. Why
are you fine here? What did he say to you?
Yeah, no shit, and we'll never know, because the next time we see her, she's not fine anymore.
She's not fine anymore.
And we don't know what happened. Like, why was she just like, Aaron's not here? Oh, that's cool. It's no problem. And then, the next time we see her, she's like going crazy. There's half my baby and all that stuff, So it's just like, it just doesn't add up. And I almost like it. It sort of hints at this idea of like being drunk or something on this evil, that's what it feels like to me that they're portraying in that scene, but they don't follow through on that. They don't actually clarify what's going on at all. In fact, no one
that'd be great if it was some sort of power where he's able to kind of, get them mentally hooked on some idea that kind of slowly drives them insane.
Yeah.
Like, they have my baby, baby, and just draw, that is pretty interesting. And if he can find that thing for you, then he can like claim you and make you crazy or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that, like with Saeed or something, it's like, I can get you Shannon back or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's in that making Saeed do things and make him more crazy. But no, he got more sane afterward for some apparent reason. After he was claimed, he like sobered up.
Right. And that is another example of something that Locke saw. Locke, when he went to the cabin and he sees Claire and Christian Shepherd together, and they have all that dialogue, and like Christian Shepherd says, of course, I think it's better you don't tell anybody you saw her and stuff. And he doesn't, Well, as a result, no one ever knows that happened.
Yeah.
No one else besides Locke. And he never talks about it, and it doesn't seem like he ever realizes what was going on there.
Yikes.
Like, he was just like, okay, Claire's here, whatever. What am I supposed to do?
Well, yeah, why would he believe him that he shouldn't tell anybody that she was there?
Exactly. I mean, he's getting a mission from what he thinks of as Jacob or the island or something, and so he's just willing to accept, I guess, whatever he sees there, because he's like, it must be part of the plan, and Man in Black actually says, like, Aaron's where he's supposed to be, and so this is all part of the plan, basically, and I think that's the kind of thing that he needs to hear to just be like, okay, well,
Yeah, I
if
see.
you say
Yeah.
so, I guess I won't tell anyone. Why
Wow.
not? So yeah, I mean, I feel like that's another sort of hole that, when the characters see Claire again, if they knew that she was hanging out in the cabin, like I feel like that might have changed things a bit. They
Hmm.
would have understood a little better what's going on, but I feel like they never really had any. They were just like, "Why? She's just all crazy all of a sudden,"
All of a sudden, she's crazy. Yeah.
and no one really bought the reason or understood. And Man in Black himself didn't buy the reason, so it's just like, I didn't do anything. Who are you looking at? Me?
Yeah, it's a really weird thing when you won't take credit for the thing everyone gives you credit for.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and it goes back to also his reasons for wanting to leave the island and what he would do if he got off the island and all that stuff. I mean, that's another way in which they were so weirdly hesitant about being concrete about like these supernatural things. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
they love to suggest them. They love to sort of
If he
throw.
got off the island, everyone would die.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but how and why?
yeah, yeah. Really? Are
And
you
who and
sure?
who's and where'd you who what's your source for that information?
Yeah.
Oh, Mother, the crazy lady who didn't know anything? Like,
Exactly.
like and that's we talked about that before where it's like Man in Black could have just gotten off the island whenever he wanted to, but
Hmm.
he just believed that he couldn't because Jacob said he couldn't because
Yeah.
Mom said he couldn't,
Hmm.
and so he just didn't really try hard enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so this whole time he could have just popped off whenever he wanted to.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And it's just like it doesn't even add up with Mother anyway, because it's like if the rules if the rules are real, then she shouldn't need to go stop him, you
Yeah.
know? But she does. She goes there and fills in the hole and kills his whole village to stop him from leaving.
Hmm.
And it's like you shouldn't if the rules are rules, then you don't, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it just doesn't make sense. It's like he probably could have left, and he just didn't get the chance because she stopped him. You know, and
Yeah.
and then Jacob convinced him that he really just couldn't.
Well, and there's that leap, right? That is made. Oh, okay, that's right. So, because that's the thing, right? She wants to stop him before he's evil incarnate,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
See, and I think that messes it up
It
too.
is. It is. It's a confusing storyline. It's just like the Claire Rousseau comparison. It can.
It should have been. It should have been like because it's like she wants him to stay in general, but then
Yeah.
after he's evil incarnate, okay, now he really can't leave.
Right.
And then I think later it's kind of like they just mash those two things together, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like it doesn't it's not quite solid.
Yeah. If the reason changed, like, you know, it they needed to make that clear, and I don't think they really did. You're right. They just sort of said it was like a continuation of the same thing. He went into the cave wanting to leave the island. He came out the cave a smoke monster. He still wants to leave the island.
Hmm.
That's it. It's the same thing. But it's like, well, you couldn't leave before just for like general reasons, but now you really can't leave.
Yeah, now you really can't.
But again, Jacob sort of implied that that he was evil or something, but he never said it to him. He
Wait,
never e- explained
so go
what
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
he never explained to him directly. And that's another thing I found frustrating. Like the scenes they have together, he never tells the Man in Black specifically why on screen. I mean, maybe he did it off screen, but it's like if he did it off screen, what? Like show us. He never explained it to him. Why can't he leave?
Yeah.
You know, like
It seems like the answer is because he's evil incarnate, but he never says that. It's
yeah.
like, and I feel like if they were like, okay, on the count of three, we'll both each say why Man in Black can't leave, and I feel like
Mhm.
they would give different answers.
Yeah, 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 totally.
You know, because I feel like, yeah, it's probably just some weird misunderstanding. It was like, oh, real? Oh, is that why you think you can't leave?
Yeah.
No, 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 no. It's because of this other thing.
Yeah. So like Saeed finally tells Man in Black, like, Dogen said you were evil incarnate, and he just sort of half grins, and it's like that's the only response you ever get to that thing. Like, have other people told him that?
Hmm.
Does he have any idea that anybody thinks that? Does he have any reason to give that any sort of credence at all?
Yeah, shouldn't he take that seriously? If like at a certain point, if everyone tells you you're evil incarnate, like maybe you should pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. But if that's the first time anyone's ever told him, which is
Yeah.
possible, then I could see him being like, okay, I don't think so, you know?
And again, Dogen is only saying what somebody else told him. And I feel like there is a way to
Right.
scoff at, even though he is a smoke monster.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who is to say that means he's evil incarnate?
Sure.
I feel like it's a kind of weird thing where they see a monster and they assume it's bad.
Absolutely.
And that could be why he scoffs. He's like, "Oh, well, of course you think I'm evil incarnate because I fly around as a smoke monster." But
Right.
really, like that's just a side effect of something that happened.
Right. That, yeah, I mean, it was retaliation for an attack against me. All I've ever wanted to do is leave. That's all I want to do now. I have no desire. The evil I'm doing is just because I'm trying to leave this place and somebody won't let me.
Hmm.
you know and so, like, from that point of view, it doesn't seem like evil incarnate to just try to get out of a situation where you're kept in a sort of prison. And
Yeah.
that's why I feel like he needed to be told, because he needed to have some kind of understanding, because I feel like he wasn't completely unreasonable. But if he was really told, like, look, there was evil in that cave, you combined with it, if you escape, it's going to destroy the world, like, someone needs to
Like
tell
it
him that.
basically, he needs to give Jacob needs to do what he did to Richard and give him the wine and
Yes,
cork thing talk and say, "Listen,
exactly.
dude, listen, brother, this wine in here is you, and this cork is the island."
Yeah. Yeah. But instead, like, we never see anyone on screen tell him that, and so I'm not sure if he even knows that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and like, Jacob comes up to him and gives him the wine bottle as a kind of symbolic suggestion, but of course he didn't hear that explanation, so he doesn't necessarily know what it means, and he breaks the wine bottle, and it sort of suggests that he knows, but not necessarily. you know like,
yeah.
it's symbolic, and it works on that level, but it's like the character literally, from what we've seen, does not know what that represents.
It's almost like they're saying breaking the bottle means yes, he wants to have his evil infect the world.
Yeah,
But he would never say that. He would never claim that.
exactly.
He would never be like, "Oh yeah, I want to leave the island so I can kill everyone."
Exactly. That's a problem. And even the second to last episode, he's making deals with Whitmore, saying, well, if you tell me blah, blah, blah about Desmond, then I won't kill Penny, you know?
Hmm.
And so it's like, if he's just going to go kill I mean, it's just weird that he's going to be like, no, I'm not going to do anything. I'm threatening to do this because you have something I want, but it's not like I'm evil incarnated. I'm just going to go, like, kill everybody, you
Yeah.
know? Because if that's the case, and the fact that Widmore even believes that, when he's one of the main ones talking about how it's going to end the world.
That's another point that they miss, that they kind of should have done the opposite, is when he tries to leave. Like, if they want the idea to be valid in any way, that if he leaves the island he's going to kill everybody, then what they should have done is when he's on the island in the past and he's with the, like, Roman citizens or whoever settled on the island with him, uh and he builds the donkey wheel, right?
Hmm.
Like, it should have been him that killed everybody
Hmm.
before he left.
Right.
And then Mother sees his murderous rampage
Yeah.
and realizes she doesn't want him to leave the island to just go kill people.
Hmm.
And then it's like, okay, that's why she knocks him out and covers up the thing and like prevents him from leaving, because he's a murderer
Right.
and he would kill any population he gets around. Like that, that's what they should have done if they wanted us to believe that to
Right.
see as an example of what he would do if he got off the island.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
no,
like
totally.
they had the same idea. They just put they just rearranged the pieces in a way that doesn't quite fit for what they want to tell us later.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think, yeah, that's another thing about like making the link between the person he was before he got thrown in the cave and what he was when he was the smoke monster. Like,
Yeah.
they sort of suggested that, you know, Jacob was the good, dutiful son, and he was the one who knew how to lie and had this kind of deceptive side, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't go so far as to say he was evil. I mean, I feel like they
Yeah.
didn't go anywhere near portraying him as being
That's
evil.
They should have done a whole episode about Jacob and Man in Black when those people come to the island.
Yeah.
And Jacob wants to protect them and Man in Black wants to kill them.
Yeah.
And that's when their whole idea of this super game that they're playing starts.
Mm-hmm.
It starts when those people come to the island and they have to decide what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then they can continue that game throughout eternity. You see, it would make way more sense, and then just then a sort of more arbitrary idea of, well, I think people are good and I think people are bad, so
Right.
let's just kind of find out.
Yeah, and that's another point that doesn't fit together very well. Like Man in Black is supposed to think people are bad, and Jacob's supposed to think people are good, and they have this debate about it. And even that group he's with, he's like, "Yeah, no, they're horrible, but whatever. You know, I got to build this donkey wheel, so fine, I'll hang out with them for a while." But it's like he's the one that wants to go back. He's the one that wants to rejoin civilization, and it's just weird. Jacob's the one who's isolating himself, but he's the one who thinks humanity is good, whereas Man in Black thinks they're evil.
That we talked about that before, how their values are switched, where it should have been Jacob who's tragically trapped on the island.
Yeah.
He wants to get off. He's good. He wants to be with people. He wants to get off. But
yeah,
his getting off means that the jail has no sheriff, no warden, and he's got to stay forever to keep Man in Black there, who wants to get off. You know, and it's like, yeah, they have the pieces and they set it up, but it's just not in the right order to be like maximally entertaining or like to really fit together.
Right. Yeah. To like have a clear storyline arc. Like they introduce these random ideas, but then the way they connect is so awkward sometimes. It's like you have to do all this work for them to be like, okay, maybe it's something like this. I don't know. Like, why is it so vague? Like how to understand like basic questions about the show.
You know that meme with Heath Ledger's the Joker, you know? When they,
yes.
I see that. Why so vague? Oh, yeah, I want a version of that. Why so vague, Lost? Why so vague?
Exactly. And like not just merely vague, but like vague in contradictory ways, you know? Mm-hmm. Like vaguely suggesting
it's like, yeah, it's like vague about the details, but like specific about the contradictions.
Yes, exactly. Like what a combo. It's crazy. It's just a crazy mix that I really think is pretty unparalleled in TV.
Yeah, it really is. It's really pretty astonishing.
You know, I've seen a lot of shows, and like shows always have problems, but I've never really seen a show that like has such a tension between like vaguely throwing ideas out there, specifically throwing contradictory ideas out there, and then sort of expecting that to add up to some grand story. You know? Like it's so bizarre, and it's amazing that it works at all. I mean, it's amazing.
And we're gonna see an example of that here with the psychic, right? Specifically throwing out these contradictory things. That about these vague ideas. About what it means that the baby's special, and what it means that there's a couple who and what it means, you know, what it means that he's a psychic. Like all of these things are vague, but the contradictions are very specific.
Absolutely. That's a good point. That's a good point. That's exactly the kind of thing that they constantly do, and then we're left sitting here going, ah. So I
And
guess,
then and then at the end of all of it, they go, "Oh, it's your fault. You should
yeah,
have been focusing on the characters."
right, right, right. And it's like I was trying, like, even that's hard.
Yeah, even that's
You
hard.
know, because I mean, we're even talking about some character stuff with regard to Locke or Jacob and Man in Black or
Yeah.
whatever, where it's like even those points, just putting aside the plot, but just in terms of who they are, it's like it's also got this combination of being vague and being specifically contradictory.
Yeah.
You know, like for Locke sees the smoke monster in episode 4 season 1 and has this conversation with it. I mean, uh he never really talks about it or like addresses it, or like he has this vague interpretation of it, but it never really comes into play later, you know.
Yeah.
And so again, it's
Well, we talked about that before. He gets sidetracked by the hatch.
right.
Like he goes, "Oh, I saw a smoke monster. Oh, look, there's a hatch over here." That's the same thing, right? Like,
he's like a 3-year-old.
yeah, he's like a little puppy. He just sees something shiny, literally
Oh,
shining, and it's he's like, "Well, I got to get in this thing."
yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think they ever had that episode where it's like after he sees Smokey, he goes to try to find him again.
Yes,
You
exactly.
know, like wouldn't you think like if
Yes,
it's on some grand path and he sees this
that
supernatural,
he interprets as the eye of the island.
yeah,
Like, of course he
yeah,
would
wouldn't you
seek
want
it
to
out.
see the eye again?
Yeah, and like when the smoke monster drags him down the thing in at the end of season 1, what's his interpretation of that, like relative to his earlier experience? I could imagine a Locke who, after he's dragged down the hole, who might say, maybe that means we're not supposed to blow up the hatch.
Hmm.
Like but he really has he's just like, oh, I'm not afraid, it wasn't gonna hurt us, and it was just a test or something, but it's vague again. He doesn't really say what it means, and he doesn't ever really come back to that. Like, first I had this confrontation with the smoke monster, and then he dragged me down a hole. Like, what does that mean? you
Yeah.
know like, he never seriously considers that or like reacts in light of that. And yeah, you're right, he just gets distracted by other things, and he's just single-mindedly pursuing the goal of the hatch. And so even if the smoke monster shows up and literally tries to drag him down a hole, he still doesn't really pay attention.
Hmm.
you know
And I gotta say again, God, I'm really starting to feel emotional about Locke here. All of these tragic qualities that just like compound him. Like I just realized how sad it is that he thinks he's on this grand path that leads him to the hatch,
hmm
and he basically settles with his goal in life being to press a button.
yeah,
Like, how pathetic is that? Like, he's like, it
yeah,
all led to this. Me, yeah, I'm saving the world, perhaps, but I'm pressing a button. Like, how
yeah,
far is that from his job at the box company?
right, right,
Sitting in a chair in front of a computer. Like,
absolutely,
that's such again, like a strange w- place for him to get to and go, okay, I'm happy here.
right,
Like, I'll just press this button forever.
right, right. But then he begins to doubt it. He's not
And then it's
satisfied
time
with
to,
it.
yeah, exactly. Then it's time to say no.
Exactly. And so then it's like, no, this can't be my destiny. Like, it's too shitty, you know?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. He's like,
Like,
listen, I was immaculately concepted. This
yeah,
can't be, yeah,
exactly. I clearly deserve better than this,
clearly.
And but it's like saving the world isn't enough for you because it's just pushing a button, and it's like, no, it's not, because
But
I don't know.
it, if they had actually had that be a theme, an actual question that was raised, that would have been very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If that was something that they brought to the table of like, is it enough of a destiny to save the world by pushing a button.
Right.
Would you take that?
I feel like they never got there because they were still wondering if it really did save the world or not.
That's the problem. You'd have to be sure about that.
And that was the problem. So that's where he got stuck, was like he wasn't sure it really did anything, and he became convinced that it was a science experiment basically. Yeah. And that they were just pushing buttons with no consequences whatsoever, which is even more like his job at the box company.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, yeah, I feel like it's definitely consistent with his character, but yeah, I do think you're right. There's a missed opportunity there in terms of confronting that interesting situation that you're saving the world, but it really sucks.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a different show. They just didn't deal with that at all.
Yeah. Well, question mark. Well, we'll get to see. There'll be more discussions about Locke and how awful.
I don't think that's a topic that's going away from the podcast after this episode.
Yeah.
Because we haven't, honestly, we're way at the beginning of Locke's.
No, no, he's still batting pretty high here. He hasn't started to go downhill completely.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, there's these flashpoints, I mean, for me, it's like the end of season 1 when he just doesn't listen to Hurley at all. And
oh man, so unnerving.
Yeah, like I was really frustrated by that, and I had been a huge fan of his character in season 1 up to that point. Even the other stuff he did, even the stuff with Boone, and his death and stuff. Like I sort of sympathized with Locke, like that. He didn't really want Boone to die, I don't think, and his legs got taken away for obscure reasons. Yet another vague whatever plot point. Yeah. But I still felt like he was trying to pursue, and he ends up banging on the hatch, and then the light comes on, and there's this gratification, and it's a great moment, where it's like, okay, it's hard, being the chosen one isn't easy, but he really is on a path.
But there's a light at the end of the tunnel, you might say.
You might say, but of course we know what the answer of the light is.
Desmond was going to the bathroom. Like I just, again, there's that almost proof that they're just toying with this character.
Yeah.
They're just like, let's write the most. I think I said this before, where Eeyore is like, "Wow, Locke, you really got a shitty deal." Like, I thought, I'm depressed. I'm a donkey. I'm a cartoon donkey. And my life is better than yours.
Yeah, it's like maybe things aren't that bad. I mean, I don't.
Eeyore's like, let me try some of that honey over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Life's not so bad. Let me stop being so depressed.
Yeah, like at least I don't have his life. Like, jeez.
Yeah, because that's what they do. They set Locke up for this great moment.
Yeah.
When all this hard work is here and the light comes on when he's at his lowest point ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the reason for the light is the most trivial thing ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It's not even that he hurt him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's amazing that they take, because it's such a great moment, and it's like that's what I would call. I mean, of course, they could have chosen to make it anything they want, but that's a really painful sort of, not really retcon, but like explanation, let's say. like because it could have been a lot of things, and
it's kind of like, why couldn't we have that? Like, why did you guys have to tarnish that great moment for him?
Exactly.
From the show, really.
Yeah.
That's such a cool moment on the show, and it's they come back to it, when they're time traveling, and it's a cool moment in his journey, and yeah, why couldn't that have meant more?
Yeah.
Why couldn't that have been? I forgot what was Desmond doing.
If I remember right, I mean, like it sort of matters, but it doesn't matter as much as it should. If I remember right, Desmond is down there writing some kind of note to Penny or something, and I think he's like thinking about killing himself or something.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then I think he actually does hear Locke.
Okay, yeah.
Pounding on the thing, and then he flashes the light, and like that moment of connection somehow like gives him the will to keep living or something.
That's right. That's right. So they did try to make it matter but it mattered for Desmond, but not for Locke. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, but it's like it's still weird because it was like he I mean he just stayed down there for the next however many weeks or whatever until they actually he could have just walked out the front door and been like, hey,
mm-hmm.
I'm Desmond. You trying to get in there? Because actually, there's a door like right over here.
Right over there, right behind you. There's a door.
Yeah, and like I love to have some company, and it's just like, why didn't he? I mean, I guess he didn't trust them or something, but at the same time, the fact that he had this sympathetic moment where he shines the light to like make a connection. I mean, it suggested that he didn't think it was just some like hostile there to kill him or something, right? I mean, it'd be weird.
Well, maybe it was just as simple as he realized that he wasn't like alone,
Yeah.
Because if no one ever, presumably no one's, he hasn't had contact with anyone, right?
For a long time,
so
yeah.
He's, for all he knows, he's living in a dream world or something. So maybe it's just like once he realized, okay, there is somebody out there, there is a potential threat, or at least other people, then now he can remember that what he's doing. But yeah, I don't know. That's a weird moment.
Yeah. I mean, I just think I think it is tarnished, even if it sort of matters to him. It's just not. It doesn't have the power that it does when you first watch a show and the light comes on and there's all these possibilities about what that means, because you think that it's sort of, but it's not the island,
Mm-hmm.
It's just the guy that's
it's almost an example of it should have been a lesson to Locke about don't misuse what you see for your own purpose, right?
Yeah.
Don't just look at something and go, okay, I know exactly what this means.
Right.
It should have made him more savvy and more critical thinking, and in terms of his thinking about what's going on and how to respond to it.
Exactly.
Instead, he's just like, oh, if I see something, I'll just use that to fulfill my own wishful thinking.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that it would have been a nice arc for his character if he can have these setbacks. I mean, all characters have setbacks, but that he grew out of them to a stronger person who could actually deal with these circumstances and actually be skeptical in the right way. When an important moment happens, he could say, "Really, you speak for Jacob? Like, tell me more about that."
Yeah, that actually would have been interesting if in the last the end of the show when Locke comes back, Man in Black comes back as Locke. If that was actually Locke, if he was doing a long con.
Mm-hmm.
If he made everybody believe, that he was Man in Black,
mm-hmm.
And then at the end he's like, just kidding, it's me, like, like I fooled everybody to get, so I could like orchestrate, whatever was going on there, but because he wasn't the cool, calm, collected leader.
Yeah.
Who had time to whittle, and who was sure of what he wanted and how to get it.
Yep.
And when he needed to not, just do something, he would just hang out. He wasn't impatient like Locke was.
Right.
So yeah, that would have been an interesting way to show that he, he was more savvy if he could have pulled, if he could have beat Man in Black.
Right. Yeah, and I almost feel like there's an alternate universe Lost Story where something like that happens, where I almost see it happening on screen up to a certain point in the show where like Jacob Jacob could be the bad guy, and Locke killing him is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Because he realizes that the island is being led by this crazy guy, and there needs to be a change in leadership and stuff like that. Like I could totally see, but he has to go through all these machinations to like make you know to make the plan work and stuff. Like I think that could have been a cool idea, absolutely, if like
Yeah.
Locke had this great plan that he finally executed. And
That would have been it would have been interesting if they could have maybe orchestrated something where Jacob and Man in Black and Locke's body and Ben are in Jacob's place,
mm-hmm.
and and it's Locke who kills Jacob,
Yeah.
and then to get him out of the way.
Yeah.
And then he turns to Ben, and Ben is like, "What about me?" And then Denny says, "What about you?"
Yeah.
And then Ben kills Locke.
Oh my god.
Which kills Man in Black and brings Locke back, maybe, or something.
Mm-hmm.
They could have maybe done something there, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's room to really. I think like it'd be interesting if they ever reboot the show, and if they they could fix all these issues and make
Mm-hmm.
a really really tight for the mythology wise
Mm-hmm.
and the character arcs, make them really tight and interesting,
Yeah.
and have these big moments actually matter and be meaningful to their growth as characters.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that would be great. I would love to watch that show. I feel like most of the basic ingredients they need are there. It's really just a matter of the way they tie
Yeah.
it together.
It is definitely like cooking. It's kind of like, listen, like your ingredients are fine. It's how you combine them and how you cook the dish that needs some work.
Exactly. And I mean, I think that's why I still consider Lost a good show, even though like it has so many problems, because like they really they threw out a lot of interesting ideas, and even if they didn't stick to them or like portray them in a clear and consistent way, the ideas themselves were interesting. And so I think if you could combine that with a coherent, clear storyline and character arcs and stuff like that, like it really could be just one of the greatest shows ever.
Yeah.
Because it's like I already like it a lot, and it's a mess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I like it this much and it's a mess, imagine if it's actually well put together.
Exactly. I would love that tight, clear, like boom, boom, boom. This is why this happened. This is why that happened. This character progressed this way for this reason.
It's the first draft of a TV show,
Yeah.
and they need a rewrite. They need a second draft.
Totally. Totally. And I think that's one thing about television. Like it's the kind of medium that makes it hard because of the way it's produced, that
Yeah, it's more immediate.
Exactly. And I think it's true. I think if they had the opportunity, like if they somehow could have written the show before they filmed it, I think they would have done rewrites.
Yeah.
In light of what they did later. But the problem is, once it's filmed, once it's on the air, you can't take it back.
Take it back.
And so they just have to live with it, and they just have to shrug their shoulders and either give a half-ass explanation or try to pretend like it never happened.
Or both.
Exactly. And I think, yeah, it's a challenge, but it's the kind of thing where now that it's made and they can have sort of a long-term view about what the story's going to be, it's a great opportunity. And it would be very interesting. I mean, there is some magic that they captured that I think would be hard to sort of replicate, but I certainly think on a story level, they could make serious improvements.
Yeah. All right, you ready to watch one of those stories?
All right, preamble finished. Yes, let's do it.
Okay, everyone, get your players ready, and we will sync up and question it all.
I'm ready.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Previously on Lost, Locke was confused and trapped.
It's previously on Lost every week.
Yep.
Or does it? Oh, this is another good moment of his like getting these signs that don't really turn into anything.
That is the scribblings of a madman.
Exactly.
Like he's doing right now.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, this show is so symbolic. Their metaphors are deep.
Yeah. No, and like Radzinski is just such a like annoying asshole when we meet him. It's just like
again another disappointment, another great a great mystery with a disappointing reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
They did the same thing with Nikki and Paulo. It's like, hey guys, you want some background characters? Here they go. No, those are awful.
Mm-hmm. This is what you asked for.
Yeah, you wanted it, right?
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
He gave her 2 for the road. And 1 for himself.
And yeah.
No, that was a great moment when he shot himself, though.
It was.
America was like, what happened?
Holy shit. We are talking about that at the water cooler on Monday.
Yep. And we don't even have a water cooler. We're going to order one.
Ooh, we get the answer.
Wow. And I feel like they only tell us because he's not actually going to finish it.
Right. I agree.
What? See, again, classic Lost pulling us in with great, crazy scenes.
Yep. Yeah, you're not expecting it. It starts out so innocently. Okay, that's creepy.
Mm-hmm. How are you not going to keep watching this show?
Oh my god. Something about wearing that priest costume is really weird in this room.
A priest at a computer? Yeah, it just looks, it's a weird tableau.
Yeah.
See, again, wow. They got the title of the episode in there, huh?
Yeah. Quite a lot.
So this is what's going on here? It's just like when you unpack what's happening.
Yeah.
He's being told about something that no one else knows. Locke knows.
Right.
The very specific thing. So whatever told Echo that knows that Locke saw the blast door map.
That's right. That's right. And because, in my opinion, the only thing I can really make sense there is that it's the Man in Black doing it. That means he knows he saw the blast door map, which I didn't really think about.
Yeah.
But the fact that I know it's a dream, and obviously that adds another layer of crazy. But the fact that you see Ana Lucia, who's dead at this point,
yeah,
sort of suggests that. Not to mention Yemi's later appearance, where he's definitively the smoke monster.
So yeah, so there's a lot of death going on in that dream, and yeah, that is interesting that she just got killed. So
yeah,
so Man in Black just knows this almost instantly as it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's more than he just goes places and looks at things like a person. Like there's a omnipresence here or something.
It's like he can sense it or something. Or is there an episode missing where we see he was like looking through the window or something?
Yeah.
You know, like like maybe
or now that she's dead, she's maybe on the island dead or
right.
something, and he can tell that.
He can sort of sense it. Yeah. Yeah. But how did he know he looked at the Blastor map? That it never bothered me. God damn it. I swear. I swear that's a good point. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
No, he's very specific about like it's not that John needs help; it's ask him about the question mark.
Yeah, yeah.
It's more
It
specific.
also means that not only does he know that Locke saw it, but I mean he knows about the Blastor map in general.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
weird. It's a good point. It really is. I mean the thing is we don't know who's sending the dream at this point, so there's no sort of limitations on
Exactly. Yeah.
what it can know, you know. But I think the creepy quality of it, I mean, I do wish it's the sending dreams thing is another like vague hole in the plot that I wish they had clarified later. Because I feel like they almost do, but of course don't.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's like why in dream form? A lot of times it seems like they
yeah,
don't even need to be in dreams. Like they
right.
have information communicated some other way.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, I like the dreams. I think they're creepy. They're nicely done. And I think that's the only real justification I have for doing it that way because they're allowed to show things that they sort of can't show if it's just real life, you know. But I kind of feel like if someone were like, "Hey, Man in Black, you sent me that dream that way," he'd be like, "What?"
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I can't do that.
Why do you think I could do that? I remember
surprised he was still alive.
I remember that I think you actually called this on Last Slowdown 1 that she was still going to be alive.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know.
The opposite.
No, I know, because I didn't expect it, and I don't think anyone did. But like, you were like, I think there's a chance she's still going to be alive, and she's going to just say something before she dies. It's exactly what happens.
Oh, okay, yeah, that does sound familiar. I don't know why I remember thinking she was going to be dead by the beginning of the next episode.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just remembering that was a question.
Yeah. I mean, I thought they were both going to be dead. I was not expecting her to jump up. It was a shocking moment. Oh yeah, and this is kind of interesting. They have their own problems in the hatch, but Echo's dream didn't talk about that. So it's like we need to just like leave now. We need to do this other thing that really kind of has nothing to do with this situation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the priest detective.
The priest detective, yeah, the once was TV show.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great because every week he can hear some confession of something he's got to investigate. You know, it's just it's a great TV show.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I love the idea that he's the priest, but he's the skeptical one. Like, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
he's running. He starts running like a PI agency out of the church.
Exactly. Exactly. And it lets them because it's church mysteries, they have this weird supernatural quality that
exactly. Yeah.
makes it more interesting than just a standard procedural.
I should go write that.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
If I remember right, I think you said something like that at the time.
I'm sure I did. And I meant it just as much. But I don't believe in miracles. Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
Yep. That was a weird shot.
He's like, I told you, it's a doozy. Well, Jesus took 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fast.
That's fast.
I think this is also kind of interesting because it sort of illustrates how, you know, and I feel like Lost almost said something on this subject. Like you can look at a situation that, has some crazy elements to it, and then you can just sort of put on it whatever interpretation you want.
Well, you say they almost said it. That is literally what they said with the finale, right? I mean, when he shows up in the church,
right?
And there's every denomination represented.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's like, listen, whatever you just saw, whatever life is, this you can have whatever interpretation you want of it. So,
yeah.
I mean, that was definitely what they were going for sure. You're right.
No, you're right. That's a good point. That is exactly what that's saying. But I was also thinking of that in terms of stuff on the island and interpreting things as signs,
Mm-hmm.
because they sort of can decide that they want them to mean this, and so they just choose to see them that way.
Yeah.
And
it's a great thing to discuss in terms of human nature.
Yeah.
On an action TV show is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It's a hefty
Because
topic.
on a medical show, they're not questioning what the test says necessarily. Like,
right?
Oh, she's got cancer. I don't think she does.
Exactly.
I'm gonna choose to believe that's part of my destiny to press a button.
Right. Yeah, it's another level. But I think those grandiose qualities are definitely central to what they wanted to get across. Even if
I just think that's something they never. I feel like no character ever said it. I feel like Miles should have said.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right character?
Maybe. Probably, if it's something sarcastic.
Yeah. Hey guys, listen, we can never know anything, or like as Nietzsche said, we can never know anything, right? Whatever they said is just something they heard from somebody else who heard it from, and really just introduce that idea that, whatever they're experiencing is at the very least an interpretation,
Yeah. It could have, like, they vaguely hinted at that kind of thing, but you're right, they never really strongly made that point in the way that they could have. And it's very interesting, and it's also central, I think, to the whole like thing about mysteries on the show. Like a lot of stuff comes down to that. We see what we see, and then we throw our interpretation on it, and like that's the best we can do.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's almost a big central point in the show.
That's what Locke should have been arguing with Jack about. Locke should have come to that conclusion. Listen, Jack.
Yeah.
When I see this, I see a miracle. You see a coincidence, and that's the difference between us. And the difference is I'm deciding to do it this way. That's the argument they should have had. Which they had, again, to a degree.
But once again, not quite as,
not
pointedly
as specific as, exactly.
As you want.
And see, what? How do you not believe him?
Exactly. And Echo responds directly with the thing, which is like, you should be.
That should he not be elated that someone is going through something supernatural that involves him as a leader.
Yeah, sent him a dream to tell him that Locke had an important mission.
That's such a Locke fantasy, right?
You should love that. Should be like, oh my god. This is my day.
Crazy. Exactly. He should have been really happy.
Yeah, but he was like, nah.
Again, he's too tragic to even see his own dream manifesting.
Exactly. Yeah. He can't even. He's reluctant to even accept. It's crazy. Oh, I remember this guy. This guy seemed creepy for some reason.
Yeah, I thought he was hiding something.
Yeah, exactly. But like apparently not.
I also liked how kind of like low key the investigation is.
Yeah,
You know, it's not like we see video footage.
right.
You know, it's still that's still not really evidence. You know, it's
Yeah.
intriguing for sure. You know, I just kind of like how it slow plays the mystery. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to remember that for the pilot I write.
No, you're right. I think it's nicely written, this episode, I have to say. Because I think it also plays off the main story fairly well.
Yeah, for sure. Following clues and
Exactly. And sort of interpreting, God, I keep saying that. Interpreting strange, like seemingly supernatural events and deciding what that
interpreting.
means.
Interpreting should be a word.
I know, I know. I really want to say it, but it's just
What about interpretationing? That's the problem with English in one word.
It really is.
Mm.
Well,
Boone. Boone made it fall all on his own.
mm-hmm.
Oh, this line. How dare you? How
Oh,
dare you? How
uh,
dare you? Nothing, just my worldview in one
yeah,
word.
I know. Yeah, let's just move on.
Oh man,
See,
wow.
Echo would have been interested if he really pressed that point. It was clear,
Yeah.
but he was just like, nah, whatever.
Locke is so weird in this episode.
Yeah, totally.
That would implicate me, perhaps.
That's not why I'm interested. Uh-oh. Is that pretty much it?
That's pretty much it.
Oh my god. That was a Jack face.
Yeah.
I really like that moment. Jack's like, yep, that's what I'm doing.
Yep. You called it.
Well done. That's it.
Now go do it.
Now, yeah, exactly. What are you going to do about it? I'm not hiding it. That's what it is.
How does
Well,
any woman get a man's gun? She pickpocketed it.
Kate laughing again at like critical plot points.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember this reveal.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot that there was even like a mystery about where is his.
Where's the infamous stash? And this is it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
I like the idea that, like, yeah, he's too lazy to keep it out any
Hmm.
place far, isn't he? Like, why
Yeah,
not keep it close? Because
totally.
if you need it in a hurry, why would you want it someplace far?
Absolutely. And he's like sleeping on it, so he can be fairly
Yeah,
secure. Like if nothing's waking him up, then no one's stealing his stash.
exactly. It's kind of the most obvious place, not the least obvious, but
Yeah.
somehow he gets away with it.
Yeah. Kate really didn't expect it. Oh, right. Hurley didn't even know what happened.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's
It's just
creepy.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, yeah. Yeah, this is very Man in Black to me.
Hmm.
A very like Christian Shepherd, that whole thing.
Now, what's our explanation of this? Now is because this is the dream.
Yeah, this gets really crazy, as you'll see in a minute.
Yeah.
I remember what the ending of this is, and it's just like, what?
Yeah, exactly. They just kept going with it.
Yeah, yeah. But I think, yeah, this is. It was
Yeah,
Locke's
yeah,
dream.
yeah, yeah,
So like,
yeah.
so like, Locke was dreaming that that Echo was sitting there where he is sitting, and
No, no, wait, no. Yeah, Locke was dreaming that he was Echo,
that he was watching himself sleeping when Yemi showed up,
and
and
that
he
he
was
had an
Echo.
adventure as Echo.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think also like the fact that the smoke monster scanned Echo and that you know Locke sees Yemi in his dream, I think that also suggests the smoke monster as the sender of the dream because he doesn't know what Yemi looks like.
Hmm. And again, why give Locke the dream Echo wants right now? Like he
Yeah,
wants. Why not just give that to Echo?
yeah,
Or in the beginning, give Locke the dream about Yemi
right,
and Echo, and then Locke having to convince Echo to follow him
right,
and say, "I dreamt about this guy who I think is your brother," as you. Like that would have
right.
been compelling.
Right, but it comes. I feel like it fits in with the whole like Echo as man of action thing because Echo gets a dream and immediately goes on the mission, whereas Locke initially really doubts it.
Hmm.
He's in this place where he's just like, nah, I don't really know if it means anything. And Echo just immediately, I feel like their characters are in a place where it sort of worked with Echo being the instigator.
Yeah,
Oh God, and then this guy shows up.
yeah, that was out of nowhere.
It's like, oh, we've been dealing with them this whole time. The psychic had a family.
Yeah. What?
It's like, wow, he's telling him a lot of stuff. Like, this is crazy.
And it's so it doesn't nice and neatly explain away Echo's questions. It
Right.
only makes it more confusing for him that
Yeah.
this guy's like, I there's a conspiracy, and by the way, my job is to create conspiracies.
Right. Right.
But I'm telling you, I'm a fraud at that.
Right. Yeah, it's
That's
a
like,
weird
don't
thing.
trust me, I'm a liar. It's like,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and it's not only that for Echo and his interpretation of this whole like sequence of events, but it's like the psychic, and like
mhm.
what do we think about Claire's story now based on that? It throws that into confusion too, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the foundation of her whole character.
Exactly. Exactly. And
That
it's
little
like
thing.
it was so convincing, and it's like no, it was all lies? Like what? I also remember that scene in the dream when Echo falls off this cliff wall thing, like was in the preview for the next week, and people were
Oh
worried
yeah.
he was gonna die. That really annoyed me. That was one of the reasons I stopped watching Next Week on Lost.
Oh yeah.
So I was just like, ugh, don't.
It never helped. It never
It
helped.
never did. It was never. I was never like, oh, I'm so glad I watched the preview.
Yeah, it never was worth it.
Oh, Hawaii.
I definitely remember watching them around these times, especially the one where
Yeah.
before Michael comes back and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely remember those.
Yeah. Oh, right.
See, what do you see?
Right. I forgot about this shot. Yeah. Oh, man.
Yep, that'll make you keep watching.
Gonna lick it? Yep.
Yeah,
Gotta
gotta
lick it. It's salted. It's funny. He doesn't say. He doesn't. Well, maybe I'm gonna end up being wrong soon, but he doesn't say it's the question mark,
Uh-huh.
which I think is kind of odd. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't say like I saw a question mark shape. It's just a circle. It's kind of weird. It's like they almost had a connection that they don't quite make.
Yeah, I guess it makes you wonder what was his epiphany.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it like, oh my God, there's a section where it's not nothing's growing?
Yeah,
Because that's not exactly what's interesting.
exactly. Yeah, but it seems like that was his takeaway because he isn't like, oh my god, I saw the shape of a
Well, and
question mark.
I think it makes sense, right? Because that isn't the question, but the question mark is what's down here,
Right, right,
and it seems like it's just a coincidence
right.
that the question mark in the grass is very much like a good marker for that location, like you would put on
Yeah,
the map.
yeah,
But really, the question mark is that they haven't found it yet. It is. It's a see. That's really really confusing.
yeah.
That's a wow. That's
I know.
really confusing.
I know, and it's like, why is it so confusing?
Yeah,
Like,
because it's like you're right. They can't celebrate they found the question mark yet because they haven't, but they
right.
did.
Yeah, exactly. That sums it up.
Yeah.
And it's so strange. But I like this moment that Locke's like excited now,
Hmm.
you know? Even though he was disappointed by the first hatch, and he's gonna be even more disappointed by this hatch
But at
for a
least it's a
moment.
hatch, right?
Exactly. Like there's a period of time where he thinks this one might be satisfying.
Yeah. And I
And
mean,
they
this is just a great metaphor for the show, right? It's
yep,
just going down to nowhere.
going down some kind of mystery
Yeah.
rabbit hole thing. Yeah, totally.
So this is just to put it. I mean, she doesn't look like she's in pain, but is it that she's unconscious because she's in pain or something?
Maybe. They didn't really yeah. I'll say yes. Just to be safe. I'm gonna feel guilty about that for eternity.
That's my penance. I'll never be vindicated for what I did here.
Yeah.
And I feel like Hurley's like, I'm gonna come back for you after I'm leader of the island.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, exactly.
even though you killed Libby, and I never found out about it.
Yeah.
I love that handy light switch.
Yes, nice. Thanks, Dharma.
Where the power comes from, I guess we won't question.
It was a giant hamster. I think that
Yeah.
was the answer. All right, I remember this room.
Yep.
Oh, it was so cool when they were exploring this stuff in the early days. It was like every detail was like super exciting.
Yeah, it was a clue to what was happening.
Exactly. It's like
Like
these
this stuff.
Yeah, it's like piles of weed. Like what is that? Like dirt?
Yeah.
I don't even know. Like it's weird. It's weird details. And they do the same thing like with the cabin and stuff. It's just like random weird shit sitting around sometimes.
Yeah, no, this was pretty crazy.
And it's like, yeah, these TV monitors. And it's like
someone was sitting in those chairs watching something on TV getting high.
Yeah.
Like that was their job.
Yeah. Yeah. Like is that what that is? Like
I think that's the idea, especially since it was from the 70s.
Right.
I'm assuming. So I think that's Occam's razor answer, right? I think that's the simplest explanation.
No, you're right. You're right. I guess I didn't fully realize how like sort of hippie 70s Dharma was at this point.
Yeah,
because
that it would translate with to their normal activities here.
Yeah, like because we haven't seen them portrayed that way. Like we've only seen the orientation videos with Pierre Chang and stuff, and it doesn't really portray that.
You know what that means, right? That means that they were smoking Dharma branded weed.
Of course they were.
It came in a Dharma logo. Wow.
Of course. Of course. Why not? Oh, and the printouts. Oh, the valuable printouts. Oh, I remember going on a big rant about this paper and like the countdown clock and like how such and such thing should have happened, and oh my god.
Yeah, I am not being very accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't really matter, but it was just like, okay, technically it should be like this, and what they show is that, and it.
He's like, well, let me look at my note.
Yeah, this is a weird moment. It's like,
how does it know that something was in there? It seemed like it only worked because he put something in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe he just closed it.
Like it sensed it, or yeah, maybe you just close it. It's one of those bank things.
Yeah.
It's really strange. What?
FNG.
I'll watch that.
I'll watch that. Please. No, these are great. The pearl.
Oh yeah.
What? The what?
Yeah. Different name? Why?
No, you're not.
What does it mean?
And why are you hosting a game show?
Like, yeah, it really does look like a game show. I think that was a cool cut from Pierre Chang in the room to them in the room.
Yeah.
I like that.
But for the random people who might find it later.
Did she say that?
Did she? And why?
Yeah. Strange thing to say, Karen.
What was she on when she said that? Even though we have computers, we're going to make you write it down.
Right. And I'm not quite saying that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not, but that you could draw that conclusion if you want. Oh right, the strategic cuts. Gotta love that. Yeah, so I think it's pulling the thing down, I guess.
Yeah, pull it
That
down a
makes
little.
it go up. Oh, the Paula
I almost,
Fairy.
yeah, I almost wish Locke would have done it after he saw it on,
Mm-hmm.
saw how it worked.
I think that would have worked better, yeah. Because it just seemed a bit random.
Yeah, because when we see it in the video, it's kind of like, oh yeah, we already know.
Right, exactly.
It should have been cool at first of the video, like, oh wow, look at that thing, and then Locke finds it and then
Yeah.
sees if it still works, and it does.
Yeah. No, I agree. That would have been better.
He's like, no, they didn't mention my name, so it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. And of course, it's a contrast with orientation video, where he immediately wants to watch it again.
Yeah, oh, you're right.
Whereas Echo's like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly the kind of thing I was looking for.
Why is that though?
I don't know. He's crazy. I mean, that's Locke's reaction.
Let's see what he says here. Yeah, here he goes. This is where it all starts.
Yeah. And they have cheese.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
This is completely the difference between the two characters here.
Exactly.
It's faith. It's real faith versus whatever Locke's faith is.
Like, Tara Quinn's winning an Oscar right now.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah, he's like on the stage right now. He's commanding it.
No, but it was crazy that Mr. Echo literally said the thing we were talking about earlier. He was like, "I do it because I believe I'm meant to."
Yeah.
Not because I meant to, but because I believe I'm meant to.
And nothing's gonna convince him otherwise. And I think that's a huge difference between two characters. And it almost is like Echo could have been Locke's mentor about how to walk the path, of his destiny. And it's that you decide what your destiny is, and
exactly.
you believe it. You don't look for external signs to validate your internal belief, Yeah. And that's a very specific thing, and that it's very interesting. Yeah. That Echo gets proof that he shouldn't believe something, and that invigorates his belief in it.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Locke needs like constant reassurance that he's on the right path. Echo sees this, and he almost seems even more willing to do the thing.
Sure. Yeah.
He was like, yeah, and he has this crazy look on his face, like pushing the button. We got to go do this. I think it's more important now than ever.
It's like he knows he's on the right path because he's getting challenges.
Yes.
And Locke thinks he's on the wrong path when he gets challenges. He wants it to be handed to him, and he wants it to be That's exactly right. He wants it to be preordained that he is. I'm immaculately concepted. I was born to do this. I don't have to work to get it done.
Exactly.
It's by virtue of who I am that this should be happening to me. And yeah, Echo knows he's got to work for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if he encounters a test, then he knows he's on the right path.
Yeah. So we missed that point of like the daughter coming to him and saying like she talked to Yimmy in the afterlife. Don't know what to make of that, honestly. And it's classic Lost, though, because his conclusion is, there's no miracle. The psychic says, I'm a fraud. I know a fraud when I see one.
And again, that calls into question, is the psychic a fraud now? Because he said, my daughter didn't die. Oh, and
Right.
I'm a fraud. Okay, so now that the daughter did die, does that mean he's not a fraud still?
Exactly.
So you're still left with not really knowing how to take that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or did she just really have hypothermia, but she still saw Yemi, and it's sort of both things. I don't know.
I mean, I think that nod towards the afterlife is strange.
Yeah.
At this point.
Uh-oh. It's like, listen, if I don't want my button, no one else can have it.
Exactly. I also liked the Libby cameo in the airport. I think that was nice.
Oh, nice, yeah.
This is one of the things they really like to do at this point in the show. And it's not that dissimilar from what they did, later on with the Flash Sideways and stuff. Like, technically she's not dead, but effectively she's dead at this point. But they can sort of show her.
Yeah.
So bring her back.
What did the whoever gave them the dream want out of giving them the dream?
I think that's a great question, and I wish I could answer it. I really do.
Because did they know they were going to find that orientation video? I mean, like, there's no guarantee they would have.
Right.
I guess you take a chance, but
yeah. Like, I have no idea. This is one of the things that, because I mean I think there's strong hints that it's Man in Black doing it. It's the kind of thing I wish they would cover in that.
I'm sorry, I forgot to blink.
Yeah.
It's sad, but it's funny. I don't know why. It's such a sad thing, such a funnily sad thing to say.
Yeah.
It's like, sorry, I hit you in the face with a pie.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean I think that's Hurley. He's tragicomic.
Yeah. So what were we saying?
I was saying that.
Wait.
Oh, sorry. What?
Don't worry about him.
No, he's fine. That's so kind of you to be concerned for him.
I always wonder. That's one of my fears. Like, not a fear, but I always, that situation where you're killed by somebody and you have a moment to communicate that in some way, and how do you do it, and what do you do?
Yeah.
Such an interesting moment.
Yeah, she definitely fails to communicate.
But it's like, what do you do? I mean, what do you, if you can only say one word or maybe two, like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Did anybody cry about Ana Lucia?
No. Maybe it was sadder for some reason.
Did she just die too? Jeez.
Yeah, but this was more sad. I think it's because of Hurley somehow. Whereas Ana Lucia was sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, where's Jack being torn up by Ana Lucia?
More of a rogue character. But yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, it's weird because most of them didn't really know Libby that well. It's kind of, it's a bit odd.
Maybe Man in Black was trying to get Locke back into believing, and that's why he wanted him to go to the question mark, because Locke couldn't have got in there without Echo.
Right.
And I think Man in Black was like, okay, Echo will help convince Locke to get back into believing, but it backfired or something. I think that's the best I can come up with.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Oh, that was weird.
Wow, that was a weird ending.
It was really weird. Like, what is Michael gonna do? Like, is he gonna
Yeah.
go eat the button now? Like,
Yeah, exactly. What's the connection there? That's really strange. Actually, well, maybe we find out in the next episode. I don't remember.
maybe we do.
But yeah, that was a weird ending. No, I think you're on the right track. I mean, if I had to say what an answer was, I would say something like that. I mean, it's but I what I was gonna say before Libby started having her death throes was I it's that's one of the things that I wish they had covered in the loophole centric episode, you know, because I feel like we are supposed to fit this into Man in Black's like overall big plan, you know, but it's again it's the show's so vague. We have to do all of this kind of maybe it's something like this, like kind of work, whereas they could have showed us like exactly what he had in mind. You know,
exactly.
when he was doing this, and they could have tied it into the larger narrative, because I think what you're saying like kind of makes sense. Like it was about sort of pulling Locke back in. Like the button was a sort of distraction, and it's not what he actually wanted. And I think that's a theory that I had, and I still have, and I wish I could confirm, is that when the first dream comes to Locke, you know, the one with Boone in it that sends them to the plane in the first place. I mean, I want to say that you know he didn't that he intended for him to find it earlier, so that he wouldn't get sort of stuck down there doing that instead of other things that he wants him to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that
if he
sort of makes sense.
Yeah, and that actually does make sense to the, you know, the fact that if he's stuck pressing the button forever means he can't be a pawn for him.
Yeah.
That means he can't be out and about killing people for him, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's actually really, that's a very interesting thing that to try to have to do when they're writing the show, is to be like, okay, well, it seems like Locke is supposed to be doing this, but actually the powers that be want him not to be doing that, even though it's the most interesting thing right now. Don't do that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's a crazy move.
But and then on top of that, see, here we have Echo basically joining Locke's side, saying we should press the button, and Locke saying no, we shouldn't.
Right.
So does the Man in Black didn't get anything he wanted then?
Right. I mean, I guess you could say that if you want to put like a lot of foresight in his part, that he wanted to lead to a conflict that would end up with the hatch being destroyed, and therefore both of them free to sort of move on to his actual plans. If you want to give him that much credit.
Like, I wonder if his goal was, okay, I'll have Echo and Locke see the orientation film, which proves that they shouldn't push the button, and then they'll reject the button and go, and they'll both be available for pawns or something.
Yeah.
But then I wonder if that was his goal, or was it just I don't know. Yeah.
That could work too, but you know, at the same time, in the dream, he's telling Echo the button is important. You have to push it.
Oh, that's right.
You know?
That's right. So yeah. So why would he, if he wants Locke to not press the button, why would he give Echo instructions that the button is important?
Right.
So yeah, that doesn't even make sense.
That's why I'm trying to I don't know if I'm giving him too much credit, but I'm trying to say he's sort of playing both of them against each other at the same time, and he's leading to a conflict.
So you're saying he goes, okay, I'll tell Echo the button's important, but then I'll show them proof that the button isn't important.
Yep.
And then
he thinks
that's a really complicated psycho manipulation, man. That's Inception level craziness here.
I realize it's giving him a lot of credit, but I would think we are supposed to think that he had like a big complicated loophole plan. Yes, I did find my loophole, and you have no idea what I've been through to get here. Like there's something there, and this is the kind of thing I wish they would have, explicitly confirmed was like his plan, because they really didn't. And I'm just stuck saying, well, maybe it's this,
You're stuck being Jerry Lewis.
Exactly. I have to use that voice. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like I wish I could be more definitive about it, but that's really my best stab at what they were trying to get across.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's weird how many open questions are. Well,
it's weird to be like if you're watching like a Superman story and it's like, man, I really wish I knew what Lex Luthor wanted. Man, it seems like he wants to kill Clark, and it seems like he wants to defeat Superman, but maybe he's on his side, and I don't know. It's just so weird to have the villain be so obscure and their intentions be so oblique. It's crazy.
Yeah, totally. And of course there I think on top of that there are retcon issues here. It might not fit exactly with what they ended up doing, or they might have, I don't know what they were thinking at the time when they showed this. Like I and I think we may never have any idea. And like I think by season 3, the beginning of season 3, when we have the whole smoke monster Yemi thing, where they're fairly definitive about the fact that, as definitive as Lost gets, of course, about the fact that yes, the smoke monster takes the form of dead people and tries to manipulate others who knew them. Using these memories that he scanned and stuff like that. They basically tell you that pretty quickly at the beginning of season 3, and I think you can sort of backwards interpret from there that the smoke monster is sort of in on this whole thing, but that doesn't tell you anything about what he wants or what his goals are, and so it's just that it's open at that point what it could be. It just tells you that he's the one responsible.
He's involved. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And so they could have gone in many directions with that, I think. And I think they might have.
And they did.
and they went at all of them. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, and I think they could have developed a different story with the same like setup, but I think with the one they went with, the final story, it's a little bit of an awkward fit, but I think it sort of works with that interpretation. But you do have to give the Man in Black a lot of credit in terms of foresight and psychological manipulation and so on. He can scan memories. He has scanned both of them. If anyone is going to be equipped to manipulate them to that degree, it makes sense that it's him. But
so if you know someone's memories, does that mean you know the person? I guess that's what Dark City was about.
Exactly.
Or The Matrix or some other movies. But yeah, does that really mean and that again, that they tried to have, you're right, they had that question with the others, remember, especially in season 3, when we got your file, therefore we know what you're capable of, or know what you're gonna do because we have information on you. But does that really mean they know you?
Right.
I remember that was a whole big deal for a long time.
Yeah. What's her name was like, I know you, son. You won't shoot me. And she's like, bam! And she's like,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's the son that ends up tracking down Widmore. She was like,
oh yeah.
She got tough.
Exactly. And it's like they sort of prove that wrong. And I think even Man in Black was surprised by people at times. And I think it's a very interesting question. I mean, that whole thing about like memories like making up the person and so on, like it's something they could have explored if they were willing to be more explicit and more like concrete about the Man in Black's memory scanning ability. But he never has a conversation where he's like, oh yeah, I scanned scan people's memories, like that's something I can do,
Yeah.
and that means that I understand them completely, and so I can psychologically manipulate them. I mean, obviously that's a crappy line, but like there's never a conversation that is explicitly about the fact that he scans memories,
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
just
again,
neat.
they get close to it, right? Even when they're like, don't let him speak a word.
Right,
If he starts talking, then you can't stop him.
right.
This power he claims he doesn't have. It's so strange.
Exactly. You're right. You're right. It's definitely a nod in that direction. It's like his ability to psychologically manipulate you is so strong that if you even let him speak a word,
One word, yeah,
right?
exactly. If he says hello to you, it's over.
Yeah,
And it's a great idea for a villain.
it's great.
It's a great, scary, terrifying power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yet, at the same time that they say that, we see
It's
him
uh-huh.
and it doesn't really register, it's not like we really see that power in action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it would have been
Again,
so much scarier.
it's like the water in the temple.
Hmm.
It's this great idea, and
Yeah.
then when we see it in action, if we see it in action, it's some deformed
It's
version of
like
some
broken
crappy.
for some reason. Yeah.
So yeah, they love that. They love posing this grand idea, and then when it comes down to it, it's like, it's diamonds in the toilet.
Exactly. Exactly. It's just somehow way less than what they wanted to say it was. What they show is just it never lives up to the description. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a hilarious example because it's like, did something happen in that water? Was it infected? It's another like vague thing where it's like Jacob's dead, so the water's like cloudy and now it doesn't heal anymore and maybe it turns you evil or something, but let's just move on. Like,
Yeah. Wait. It doesn't heal anymore. Oh, but by the way, it does.
yeah, exactly. But he comes back to life. Yeah, it's just like it's so
Yeah. Oh, and
confused.
by the way, before when it was working perfectly, it also may have made you evil.
Right, right. Oh, perfect. Oh my God, how did they cover all of the answers?
Yeah, they
Like
covered them all.
what the shit? Even when it was good, it was bad, and then after it was bad, it still worked. But
After it's bad,
oh
it's
my gosh.
definitely bad, but also maybe still good. So like the only time it might be good is when it's definitely bad. I feel
Right.
like that's the best answer they gave.
Like what the fuck? Like it's unbelievable to me. Like and that's just like such a tiny blip on the overall scheme of the show, but it totally shows that pattern. Where they cover all these bases and they give these bits of information and you put them together and it's just like it specifically makes no sense. And then you can try.
It's generally contradictory and specifically makes no sense, and vice versa.
Exactly, exactly. And then you can try to like, okay, so it's like the water corrupts you, but it's also a healing goodness. But then when the water's corrupted, it heals you. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's so confusing. Yeah, I have no idea what they were going for with that. And, the way they sort of destroyed the temple and then just never spoke about it again,
Yeah.
it's just like, we don't know. Don't ask us.
And Smokey will just go crazy, and that'll be the end of the temple.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and it's just like, how did Saeed come back to life? Like, did he really bring him back to life? It's just like, if he has that power, like, again, it's an example of just like crazy powers that he underestimates or doesn't realize he has or just never acknowledged, on screen, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, if he can really do that, then like, wow, that's terrifying, you
Yeah.
know? But it's like, it seems like he would
Or
be
imagine
like,
that. Imagine that. Oh my god. Oh my god, dude. Imagine if that was the gambit he was playing with the Losties. Is I'll bring anyone that you loved
yeah,
back from the dead. You
yeah,
follow me, I'll bring them back. I mean, imagine that power.
Hmm.
Imagine the conflict of choice you'd have there.
Absolutely.
For all those people, if it's like, oh, what, like you could get whoever, whatever, all of them had somebody they lost. Jack's dad could come back if only, Jack agreed to do something for Man in Black. Like, yeah, that'd be crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they almost did that with Saeed, you
Yeah,
know? Because he basically says, "Do what I want and you'll get Nadia back," or Shannon or whoever the fuck you're thinking about, you know?
yeah.
And so it's like it's there, but then there's no concrete follow through there with that idea. He only says that once, and it's in
Hmm.
this specific situation where Saeed is ostensibly already claimed.
Yeah,
And so it's sort of like I don't even know how to take it,
yeah.
Is it just a completely empty offer? Is there some truth behind it? Like,
Even something like they could have had, like, he's contemplating if he should, deal with Man in Black. Can he trust Nadia comes back, and like he sees her reflection in some water for a
yeah,
second,
yeah,
and she's gone, and it's just like, what was that? Just
yeah.
some little thing of like, maybe it's possible, instead of just like, who knows if it's possible.
Right. Right. Yeah, but I mean they throw out it's just such a huge idea to throw out there and they almost do what you say. And if you really had it, if it were really concrete, like I will bring back the people you care about and like that was something they had to actually deal with. I mean, it's a
Hmm.
huge like dramatic possibility there. And they just sort of avoid it. And it just sort of reminds me of like the very next episode where he just like snaps his fingers and Ben's shackles just pop off and
Oh,
it's like
jeez.
wait, oh huh, he's got
Yeah, since when can you do that?
he's got telekinesis all of a sudden, like when did
Yeah.
that happen? And of course he never does that again, but it's like for a second he's just got all these extra powers and they're just not seriously commented on. It's like yeah, maybe this crazy thing, and then later on it's like huh.
Yeah.
Who said what about what? No, I don't remember that.
Where was the telekinesis when he was fighting Jack?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like like pushing the knife away with his brain powers.
Yeah. I
I mean,
guess the island was
yeah,
off or something, right?
exactly. Like you could say like he was mortal at that time, so he didn't have those powers anymore. But Jack, I mean, yeah, I don't know. He did tackle him, in that the submarine scene, you know. Like when they're about to get on the submarine,
Uh-huh.
he like Sawyer tells him to get him in the water. Again, there's a water thing that they never quite
Yeah.
go through with. But like Jack like just tackles him and like gets him, in the water. And so there's this idea that you can sort of like surprise him and like and sort of actually affect him, you know,
Yeah.
physically. Whereas like it seems like I mean he's invulnerable to bullets and like bombs and stuff,
But can
So
you drown him,
it's sort
like,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or would it not have any effect? Like,
or could
it's
you
just
just, put him in what do they call it, cement boots, and sink him to the bottom of the lake, bottom
yeah,
of the river, and it's fine if he's still alive, but he's not going anywhere.
yeah, exactly. But it's sort of like when Jack pushes him in, I'm thinking, couldn't he just like, you know, pull Jack back or like
Mhm.
slam
Even as a reflex.
yeah, like slam the submarine door shut or like use the telekinesis for something,
I feel like that telekinesis, besides being a surprising power that came out of nowhere, I think the way they depicted it was a little strange. Like, because we actually saw it just kind of happen, and
Mhm.
it would been interesting if they would have just did what they do for his metamorphosis, and just kind of, he just hints that the shackles are uncuffed,
Right.
and then and they cut to it, and they are,
Right.
and we're like, wow, how did he just make that happen? and
Yeah.
and and maybe it's, yeah, some sort of telekinesis, but not like literally we see it happen. They could have
Right.
like filmed it in a way that was more in line with kind of hinting at
The usual style.
the hinting at like, what does it mean for the reality when these powers are happening.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, you're right. That would have been more consistent. But they really showed it like a sort of Harry Potter kind of,
Yeah.
he sort of wiggles his nose and like the
Oh,
shackle just goes like.
he bewitched it. He
Exactly.
bewitched it off. Oh wow.
Exactly. And you see it move, so it's like, what other, I mean, it makes no sense unless it's something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
that was weird.
it was really strange. And so it's just a long list of crap like that, where it's like these little things that they throw out there, and they suggest these large powers in these insane situations, and then they just pull back, and they're like, no, 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 never
No, no,
mind
no.
all
Why
that.
did you think that was gonna happen?
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah,
it's our fault, right? It's like it's your fault.
exactly. It's like, I didn't do anything to you. Like, huh?
It's like you get an invitation to like a pizza party, and then you show up, and there's no, there's not even any balloons there, let
Yeah,
alone any pizza.
exactly.
They're like, "Hey, kid, why are you disappointed?
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
What were
exactly.
you expecting? A party with pizza?"
They're like some kind of really weird, mean prankster uncle or something.
Yeah, their storylines are just pranks. You're saying Lost is the biggest prank ever played?
Yeah, exactly.
They were like, "Listen, guys, let's play a big prank. It'll be in the guise of a TV show."
Yeah, that's amazing
And
because
it's
I.
like 10 years from now, they finally reveal that it was just
Mhm.
one long big prank.
It was just a hoax the whole time. Wow. Wow. Well done, I would say.
Yeah, bravo.
Because I think they know when they throw those things out there, they know they're gonna, there's a certain kind of viewer that's gonna really latch onto those things and be interested and stuff like that. And I think at the same time, they know that they're not gonna follow through on it. So it's like, what is accomplished by doing those things? Like,
Ratings.
well, that's a simple answer.
Yeah, just that. Besides that, I don't know, but that's one thing.
But I sort of believe that they could have still had the ratings and a storyline follow through?
Mm-hmm.
So like, why not the storyline follow through? Why not the more explicit sort of portrayal of some of these crazy things?
Well, that's the biggest question of all, isn't it?
I know. Obviously, it's unanswerable.
Yeah, that's the mystery no one will answer ever.
Yeah, and I really wish. I mean, I honestly feel like if I could just, or both of us could just like talk to Damon and Carlton for like 30 minutes or an hour, so I feel like I could really understand a lot better what's going on. But like, people don't ask them the questions that need to be asked.
Yeah,
And it's
for
very
sure.
frustrating, like whenever I see interviews with them, like they're rarely posed the questions that are sort of the most insightful in terms of like how to interpret the show and understand why they did what they did.
Yeah.
Because people are obsessed with like stuff that it's just like, oh, get over it. They ask about like the fucking polar bear, or like,
Yeah.
or they ask about them being dead the whole time, or some shit like that. And it's just like, oh, like, why are we?
I saw that recently where somebody suggested that was the answer. Oh no,
Yeah.
oh no, it was just purgatory.
Mm-hmm.
And or at the end of the Lost, they were in purgatory. And I think when people casually read that, they go, "Oh, purgatory, yeah, that was my first thought when I heard
Mm-hmm.
about the pilot."
Mm-hmm.
And they think it's a clear cut and dry is they were just dead all along and it was all purgatory. And I feel like people will just go, "Well, man, you really wasted your time if you watched that show."
Absolutely.
And it's like, no, it was way more complicated than purgatory.
Yeah. Yeah. Purgatory was a subplot, you guys.
Yeah.
A subplot. Was it in there? Yes, but it was not the majority of the show at all. And yeah, if the whole show had been that, it would have been disappointing. And I think they knew that, you know. And
Yeah.
so I think that's why. But it's a rumor that will not die. And I think probably it's one of those things that, you know, they're not going to be able to control it. People just keep saying it. And I feel like in 100 years, like it's going to be the correct interpretation. It's just going to be like, yeah, that's a show where they were dead the whole time.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
Luke, I am your father. I mean, that's in Star Wars. I saw it.
Exactly. Exactly like that. It's like it doesn't matter what was there. It matters what people remember was there.
Yeah.
You know? And like that's the thing that gets passed down into the culture.
It'll be, you know, Lost was the show with the worst ending ever. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
That's what
exactly. Exactly.
And like a Jeopardy question, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's in history books. Like that's just what it is. It's notable for that reason.
Yeah,
you know?
Notables.
But like they won't if someone actually watches it, then they'll be surprised, you know, just like I was when I watched Star Wars and he didn't say the line, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Or Empire Strikes Back, whichever one. I'm not super. I've seen the movies. Okay, whatever. Anyway, the one where he says that, it's like, yeah, the line is like, it's kind of like that, but people quote it. You know,
they made it better, and I always get fascinated with those kind of lines from screenwriting where the collective consciousness is, you know, people kind of make it better in a way, because that's a better line.
Yeah.
You know, they should rewrite it that way, but
yeah,
but that's not what happened, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a long speech. There's all kinds of stuff, and he doesn't. I mean, eventually he says, "I am your father," but it's not quite
like, how do you know what moment is going to be what people want to quote? I feel like Sorkin got it right with "you can't handle the truth."
Right.
You know, like there's other ways that he could have phrased that if he didn't, you know, if that would have been great for quoting, you know.
Right.
The truth, and you can't handle that.
Right.
People might have just reinterpreted that as "you can't handle the truth," and even though he never says it that way, you know.
Right.
It's always interesting, those kind of moments.
Yeah. It definitely shows something about I think it's also interesting how it's sort of enough to give the inspiration for the good line. Like,
yeah,
you don't actually have to have it necessarily. If you can just sort of give people the opportunity to remember the good line that they wished were there.
And then they kind of tell you what they wanted out of that moment, right?
Yeah.
You know, they it's more direct that way, the way they remember it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, the other big reason I think it's "Luke, I am your father" is it gives the line context.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
If it was just I am your father, that's still not quite the same as given the context with the name.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that it's Luke, right? So if his name was John, you know, it's still not quite as powerful. Like, you don't get that context of knowing exactly who that character is.
Right. Exactly.
And that grand, you know, sci-fi moment.
Yeah. It's one of the greatest lines, like, never written.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really strange. And isn't that actually the movie that Hurley ends up working on in season 5 when they're time traveling?
I think so, yeah.
It's Empire Strikes Back, right? Like that. I don't know. It would have been interesting if they were like, and he can actually say, "Luke, I am your father."
Wow, that's another missed opportunity for them.
Yeah.
That would have saved that whole storyline if he's like, "No, listen, I'm rewriting this so he can say, 'Luke, I am your father.'"
Yeah. Exactly. Instead of being like, "Oh, George Lucas is lazy and he just wants someone else."
Yeah. He just had a really lackluster reason for wanting to rewrite it. I remember it was strange.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was like, yeah, of course he wouldn't want to work on his own like magnum opus. What are you talking about her?
He was trying to like rationalize that he was doing him a favor or something.
Yeah, exactly. He's like,
I'll just write it so he won't have to.
yeah, exactly. It's like, why is that? Why would he want that? Like some random guy, like
Hurley, you don't think he would want to write your favorite movie of all time? Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, isn't that worth something instead of just
and why would you want to take that away from him? Like,
yeah,
I like this so much that I want it to be mine and not yours.
Right. And it's like this weird guy that's like in this like hippie commune on this weird like isolated island sent me a script like what?
Yeah. It wouldn't have gotten made. It would have been like, what is this? Who is this?
Yeah, and I feel like anything that were in there, like if he were going to do it, then he'd be like, no, I'm not doing that now.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it would just be a different movie.
Didn't Hurley creates a world where like it was only that was the last Star Wars movie ever because it was the worst one because the story sucked.
Because he had to change it so it wouldn't match.
Change it, and so
yeah,
it didn't really get any bigger than that, and that was it.
Wow. Yeah, that's a crazy version of Lost. Anyway.
So question mark.
Yes.
Pretty good episode. Definitely pivotal moment here with Locke and Echo, and really seeing how their mirrors of each other.
Yeah. They made that conflict really explicit, which is nice. It nicely sort of mirrored what we were talking about before. It sets up, this is a pivot point for the conflict for the end of the season, over the hatch. And also, one thing that I really liked about this episode, I mean, when you're sort of talking over it and having a good time, it's not really the same. But the creepy atmosphere of the dreams was really nicely done here, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't do it all the time, but there are times when Lost goes for that like slightly suspensey, horror-y almost kind of mood, and it can be really effective when they do it right.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's one of the qualities that I do like the show for. It's something that I kind of missed later on. I sort of wished they came back to this a little more later. I feel like they let it fall away for a bit, but when they really wanted to, they did push that side. And because they have this mysterious force out there that's like telling people to do things and like can take forms of dead people and stuff. I mean, there is something inherently sort of horror-esque about that situation,
Yeah.
And so it really stood out this time, like that first dream sequence. Like I was like, man, that's creepy.
Yeah, very creepy.
And him in the bushes too. It's like, ugh.
It's interesting to see how the dreams, because I think at this point the audience wants the button to be important too, and wants to find out if they should press it or not. So. Getting more evidence, getting the dream saying it's important and then the video saying it's not, or potentially not, is really crazy.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting thing to throw. I mean, it sort of puts the audience in the position of the characters, where we have to decide like what we're going to believe. Are we going to believe the mystical, crazy vision dream, or are we going to believe the orientation film, that's like literally made by scientists? And I think we're left there.
Wait. So you're saying the truth isn't the supernatural force that tells you what to do, and it's not the scientific evidence you can observe in front of you, but it's somewhere in between. Is that what they're telling us here? Is that that's our physiological philosophical viewpoint here?
I guess so. I guess if I had to take away from it, I would have to say that, because each side, Dharma and the Man in Black, have their own biases, their own motivations, their own reasons for saying what they're saying, and it's really in the end their own sort of view of things that is influencing what they're telling us. And so, we have to take that into account and realize that we can't just fully trust anything either one of them says. you know, we should doubt.
You're saying we can't. Yeah, we can't trust the man like authority, the man, and we can't trust the man like Man in Black.
Right. Exactly. They both have their own agenda in a way,
Yeah.
Their goals are different, but they're both trying to accomplish something, and that influences what they say. And I think, from what we know about the Swan Station and the fact that there really was something going on there. I mean, I think that shows that in the video they they were being somewhat deceptive to the people watching in the Pearl, because they were kind of cagey about whether or not what the people are doing in the Swan was real or not. I mean, they were saying you must observe them, and they believe it's important, but we stop there. We don't really say, is it important, or is it just a fake situation that we've created? They leave it vague, and so they are playing the Dharma people in a way. They're manipulating them, just as the Man in Black is manipulating Echo and Locke. So I mean, I feel like there's manipulation going on from all sides.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult. You just have you have your own.
There is no objective truth. There is no, again, even with the videotapes, you expect that to be something you can rely on as truth. And then we get this tape, and he's got a different name. You can't even count on him to be the same person.
Absolutely. That suggests deception as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and so then you just have to decide for yourself, like, what you want to believe. Taking into account what you see, and
if you believe this tape, why would you believe the other tape, and vice versa?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you really can't. So any tape doesn't prove anything. Like,
yeah,
it just calls into question everything.
Yeah. I think I agree. It was definitely a big debate at the time. I mean, the whole thing about the button, like whether it did anything, whether it was a science experiment, so on and so forth. I mean, I certainly wanted it to be real because just selfish reasons, I like a show not to waste my time. And so I don't want to spend a whole season on something that actually has no function whatsoever. So I really was committed to the idea that it meant something. So, and of course, I didn't know the dreams had a kind of malicious source. So I was very willing to believe the dreams at the time.
I think you intrinsically trust the island, in quotes.
Yeah.
Early on, because you assume it knows what's going on, and you assume it's behind a master plan.
Absolutely.
And you don't think it's going to be personified in just literally some other person.
Right. Just like, doing their own thing, and they might know stuff, but that doesn't mean they're always honest. And
yeah, exactly. Just because they know something doesn't mean that they're good.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you're right. I definitely tended to associate the island, in quotes, and its plans with like the good thing to do. And so if it says that you should push the button, then that must be it. And Locke, of course, ends up saying, I was wrong, and so we come away sort of thinking that they were right, but that might not have been actually what it wanted.
Yeah.
And I think that's the tricky step to make, because I don't remember at the end of season 2 when they find out that if they don't push the button, something crazy does happen. I don't remember thinking, but what? Okay, so the dream was right, but what if the dream actually wanted the hatch to be? Like, I never remember thinking, like, putting that much sort of forethought into the dreams. Like trying to assign all of this weird hidden.
Yeah, just because the dream said the button was important doesn't mean it didn't want the button destroyed.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that never occurred to me at the time. It really did. I was just like, oh no, it was important, and now they destroyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they shouldn't have done that. He was wrong, but now it's like, no, maybe that's what he wanted the whole time, and neither one of them realized that.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, in summary, I would say, yeah, it was a good episode. Nice flashback. It illustrated the point we were talking about with the Lost Writers Guide, this idea of like it's kind of a procedural, but it's an interesting procedural because they have this situation where Echo is a fake priest, and so he gets to sort of act in this role where he's not actually committed to the job, and it sort of makes him a good candidate to sort of like carry out this investigation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he starts out. Yeah, exactly. He's not even. Yeah, the first confession, he wants to be anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think that's another thing about Echo's backstory that like it took me multiple times to understand that like he wasn't committed to being a priest at all until he crashed on the island.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't get that. I imagined like as soon as Yemi was killed, he was like, "Oh, I'm a priest now." But no, I mean he was just using it as a disguise.
Mm-hmm.
And for him it was just something he was doing to sort of hide out and like, figure out what to do next.
Yeah.
But like when he came to the island, he started taking it seriously.
Yeah, and yeah, and it's an adopted faith, right? He wasn't like Yemi where he always had it.
Exactly. And it's the stuff that's been on the island that sort of created that. I think it's also an interesting contrast with Locke, whereas Locke sort of always wanted to be important and have faith in things and stuff like that. Echo wasn't like that at all, and he didn't acquire that quality until he crashed there and like saw all these crazy things happen, and it just changed him like completely, and he started taking that stuff seriously. So it's a bigger shift. It wasn't what he was looking for. He didn't know he was looking for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, seeing how they both got convinced of different things, but the same information.
Yeah. It's really cool. It totally illustrates that idea, and I think there is some kind of weird, messy genius to that sort of construction.
Messy genius. Yeah, I think that's right.
Because it is messy. It doesn't quite work perfectly, but there is something really cool about with the same facts, they come away with literally opposite conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
And how that illustrates the point they even make in the flashback of like, you sort of decide how you want to interpret what you see.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so crazy. That flashback, still unresolved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I meant to bring up, because I don't think there's really a good opportunity to bring it up later. I remember, I don't know if I dreamed this. I hope not. There's some behind the scenes thing somewhere. Try to find that. I believe it's in season 3. It makes the most sense that it's in season 3, where we see that they at least at one point had plans to have the subplot in season 3 where they bring Locke's dad to the island.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually originally it wasn't just going to be Locke's dad, but it was going to be also the psychic.
Oh, okay.
The psychic was going to be like in the Black Rock too, and that was part of the episode at one point, because I remember watching a behind the scenes thing where Damon's talking about this in the writer's room, and he's like, and Locke's dad's there and the psychic's there, and like you don't really, they don't show enough to where you can like figure out what they were going to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to imagine that would have been, the final chapter in the psychic saga, and maybe it would have like made everything clear, but maybe they realized that maybe they found that it was creating more problems than it was solving.
Yeah.
And so they just decided to abandon it altogether and never mention it again.
Yeah, I remember that now. It's that scene is about Locke breaking with his father, right?
Yeah.
And is supposed to kill him,
Yeah.
but he can't.
Right.
And then Sawyer finding the real Sawyer.
Right.
So that would have been tough to have the psychic there,
Right.
because that's mostly about Claire, but that means that it would have had to deal with Locke somehow. So maybe Locke's dad had hired the psychic
Mhm.
at some point
Oh
to
yeah, yeah,
info
yeah.
on Locke. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean the
Yeah, that's the thing. Like they didn't show it
because
up
he
to
was
have an
already in
explanation.
Australia. The psychic was in Australia and he was in London,
Mhm.
right? Was that go in the UK in that
Yeah.
flashback? Where was that?
No, no, no. That was in Australia. That was right
Oh,
before.
that was in Australia. Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
That's right. Okay.
yeah,
For
yeah,
some
yeah.
reason I thought that they were in UK.
Well, there is a subplot about Echo going to London. It's one of the like weird lost subplots that they never show, but like he did go to London at some point.
Oh, okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Your memory is right, but it's just in that flashback it was Australia.
Okay. Um. Yeah. So maybe something like that. Yeah, I'm curious how the psychic would have tied into either Locke or Sawyer,
Yeah.
or maybe they weren't going to do the real Sawyer thing.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it turns the whole thing into a different direction, and I think maybe they decided the story they did was so strong, and the psychic's presence would not help, like tell that story, that they just
I
decided,
guess.
you know,
Yeah. I mean, maybe they were going to say the psychic was an other,
yeah, they could have done that. They could have
and
done
he
that.
was working to get people to the island or
Hmm.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. That would make sense.
And maybe he's the one who brought Locke's dad there. Maybe that's why he's there.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
they could have done that.
maybe because they were already the guys who brought him there, right?
Right.
So maybe they were just gonna
Clearly.
reveal, oh, one of the guys is the psychic,
Right,
and,
right.
and he's an other, and so maybe it wasn't gonna be too much about him other than that or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. You might be right. You might be right. That would work. That would work. But yeah,
But
I maybe they decided that was distracting, or it didn't necessarily help the storyline or something.
yeah,
And we're just like, but it's something I would like to know, because this is basically the end of the psychic story, and I feel like it's extremely ambiguous.
yeah,
I really don't know what to think about it at all. It's just like we were talking about Libby's story, a couple weeks ago. Like it ends on a very unresolved note of just
hmm
like contradictory information,
yep.
where I just don't really know what our final takeaway is supposed to be about him at all. Because it's like, on the one hand, there was the raised by another thing, which Claire seemed to confirm meant that he wanted them to come to the island, and that seems so very true, with the cut to his face and all that, and like his desperate midnight, late night calls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then it's like, no, 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 I'm a fraud. I'm not a psychic at all. It's all bullshit. But my daughter really did visit the afterlife, so maybe I was just saying
Or
that to Echo.
I can throw out a fourth thing, or the daughter's lying and
Hmm.
he
Collected information.
collected information on him.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Absolutely. And the fact that he collects information, I mean, that kind of ties him in with the others too. Because
Yeah,
like
for
that's
sure.
that's what they did for the. It never occurred to me that he would be another. I feel like that's a good theory.
Yeah, I think that's
Shit.
something that was probably true. And then that puts him with Claire going to the island and with Echo going to the island.
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it fits right in. I feel like that makes a lot of sense, and his like general like cagey manipulativeness is much more reasonable if he's another, because that's how the
Yeah.
others are.
And what if Jacob brought the daughter back to life?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly. Like his that supernatural story definitely makes more sense in
Yeah.
light of if he really has a legitimate others connection.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like it seems like the off-island others, or like these sort of isolated individuals like Dogen or whatever, like Jacob might actually talk to them directly.
Yeah, it
You
seems like
know,
it.
so it's like it's totally possible, and that's a story they could have told us at some point that might have clarified a lot of things.
I don't know the time frame, but what if Jacob told the psychic, listen, you need to tell Claire to get on the plane,
Hmm.
and if you do, I'll bring your daughter back to life or something.
Totally, that totally makes sense.
Just like what he did with Dogen.
Yes, yes.
I got a job for you, and
Oh my
but
God, you're
yeah,
right. You're absolutely right. That would totally make sense. That would totally make sense. I mean,
yeah.
because the thing is, I'm not. Yeah, I agree. The timeline, but I think the timeline is close to working because initially, what he says is the baby can't be raised by another.
Hmm.
That was his first. That was the before message. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's the last minute where he calls and says, "No, no, no, no! You got to get on this plane and you got to take the baby to this couple in Los Angeles."
Hmm.
That's much closer to the time when the daughter drowns, and
Yeah,
so it would make sense of his sudden random change, and it would tie together the daughter drowning,
yeah,
you know, and miraculously coming back to life. You know,
yeah. And he
it
doesn't want anybody to know how.
exactly. And so he tells Echo that he's a fraud and there's no miracle and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And explains the daughter's knowledge.
And he still could be a fraud.
Absolutely.
He doesn't, but it's just Jacob that brought his daughter back to life
That's
and
right.
is behind him, but he is still a fraud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the first thing he said to Claire was like, what he thought she wanted to hear,
Yeah.
you know? And he changed his mind because that's what Jacob told him to say.
Wow, I think we just solved the psychic. I think we just neatly put to bed all the problems with the psychic.
I agree. It totally works. It totally works. I just wish Lost had said this.
Is that what's missing?
That's the only thing missing.
It actually being on TV? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. It would have been a nice addition that I would have loved to see at some point worked into, for example, the last episode in season 5 where we first see Jacob. We could have seen something like this.
Mhm.
The whole point of that
Or
episode
or
is
yeah, any of those times when Jacob was going and touching people,
yeah, yeah.
you
That's what I
know?
mean.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Because like the whole point of those scenes was like how he was bringing the candidates to the island,
Hmm.
and so this would fit in perfectly with that.
And we never see anything for Claire, right?
No, we never see anything for Claire.
Yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's it. I think we solved it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. It seems 100% clear now that you say it, but it's like, why didn't they say that? God damn it. What they tell us, I feel like we really have to work to like figure out what the answer is supposed to be,
Yeah.
you know? And it's I feel like they should have been clear about that because I think it's actually it ties the story up more much better.
Yeah, it does. It gives a reason for all the inconsistency.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, which they never gave on screen.
Yeah.
Because even if he's a fraud, like, why is he such a weirdly inconsistent fraud?
Yeah, exactly.
you
Yeah,
know?
it's like it doesn't explain his behavior.
Exactly. It's not like you can just say that and then it's like, well, well, it makes sense now. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't explain everything.
Wow, man, if we can get that kind of catharsis with the cabin, oh
Oh,
man. Oh man, if we could
oh,
just maybe one day, that gives me hope. Maybe one day we can like come up with the right framework to really make the cabin work.
mm-hmm.
I think
I
that's what
hope
it is.
so.
It's always, those missing pieces. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
now
yeah.
it's here. Yeah, if Jacob saved his daughter, then that's it. That's all you
Yeah.
need to explain his behavior and at any given point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that
And I like that we have we know Jacob has done that deal. It's not just, oh well, maybe he did it,
right.
but we've seen
Hmm.
him do that deal before.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And it uses evidence. I mean, there's a clear argument there. I think the key turning point was the idea that the psychic was another. That was something it never occurred to me,
Mm.
like ever. I don't know. I always thought of the psychic as an independent agent. I mean,
Yeah,
I never thought of him as actually like being connected to those things going on the
yeah.
island, you know. But thinking that way turned it into a coherent story.
Yeah, no, that little detail about him being at the Black Rock. I'm like, well, why would he be there? Like, because I was
Yeah,
thinking he'd be captive,
yeah,
like Locke's dad. But I'm like, well, no, maybe he's there for another reason. And they would love that reveal
hmm,
of just saying, oh yeah, by the way, the guy who kidnapped Locke's dad, yeah,
yeah,
he's the psychic.
totally,
They would have loved that reveal.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I really wonder what happened. I wonder if it was story reasons or even something with the actor or like
Hmm.
what could have happened where they decided not to do that story. Because it really could have been pretty short, like you said, like to do this reveal that he's the other, and then if we know he's another, I think we can draw the rest of the conclusions fairly clearly,
Yeah.
you know, because based on what we learn later, that's enough information. But they never said it. They never said it. There was never a line where Ben was like, "Yeah, there's that psychic," you know. It's so close, so close.
Yeah, yeah. Or Ben's like, tell the psychic to pick him up or something.
Exactly.
Have the psychic handle it.
Exactly. It's just that's all it takes, you know, and it's so often like that with Lost. It's like so simple to
Yeah,
just
it's right. They stop short of the greatest thing ever. It's like they just stop right there.
yeah. Yeah. And it's like, "Oh, one more line and it would be perfect." You know, and then they just can't quite do it. Yeah, they don't even have to show him. They I mean, it's better if they show him, but like they could have told us that without even, you know,
Yeah.
showing us anything.
Hmm.
Just like a throwaway line basically.
Anything. All they have to do is say one word,
Yeah,
psychic,
psychic.
and we got it. That's it.
There's only one psychic on the
There's
show.
only one. There's only
It's
one.
we're not. It's not going to be. Well, I'm not going to doubt who they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. Yeah, that's all it took, and it's just like, ah. I'm
Wow.
lost.
All right. Well, we fixed that. What's next?
I know, right? I hope we can fix the cabin like that, but I have my doubts.
Well,
But
we'll see
hey,
by the time we get back to it
yeah,
here.
yeah. If you can have like that key idea that sort of makes everything start working about the cabin,
How
that
about this? How about this? You ready? The
yeah.
cabin was another.
Oh, I wish it were that
I'll just keep
easy.
using that trick on everything that doesn't make sense.
The cabin is another. That's hilarious. Yeah, yeah,
What was up
yeah.
with the donkey? What was up with the donkey wheel? The donkey wheel was
Like the
another.
another.
Just another. Oh, I get it now.
Wow, suddenly it makes sense. Yeah, that'd be really cool. The one answer to answer
Yeah,
all the
exactly.
questions.
Yeah.
What if I told you that it was another?
What was up with that tree frog? Tree frog was another.
Other.
It was another.
Oh, it fits now.
Yeah. What's up with the time barrier? Time barrier was another.
Other. Oh my god, I wish the show were that easy.
All you need. All right. So we'll have to work on the cabin. That's the big one. That's the
That
big.
is that is our
I think there's multiple pieces missing for that, and that's the challenge. There's multiple
mhm.
critical areas.
Huge gaping holes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
that reminds me. Real quick. I remember you saying what did you said something about the eye of the island?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Locke looking into the eye of the island,
Mm-hmm.
and that reminded me of the eye in the cabin.
That's a good point. When you
And I
just
wonder,
started saying that, that thought occurred to me for the first time ever.
yeah, exactly. I feel like I
Wow.
don't think we talked about that before, but I'm like, yeah, you're right. The
Oh my.
eye of the island, and then the whole eye of the cabin.
Yeah.
Why else would they show us this eye
Yeah.
if it's not eye of the island?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Because I was like, okay, is it one eye? Is it Mikhail? You know, like why are we seeing one eye?
Yeah.
And that, yeah, as soon as it was when you phrase it that way, I immediately thought of the cabin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good point. Maybe that's what they were getting at with that thing. And again, they never said it. You know,
Yeah,
Locke was never like, "I saw the island again." You know, like there's never a thing like that. But yeah, I think that's wow. That seems very correct to me.
hmm
Absolutely, absolutely, and it totally ties in with him seeing that in the smoke monster before. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And also it being sort of a misinterpretation,
yeah,
you know?
and a kind of visual metaphor for the lyrical metaphor.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Cuz it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
The eye in the cabin.
hmm
Like it's not what I would call beautiful, let's say.
No, no.
But yeah, that's a oh man. Yeah. Yeah, the eye motif is weird. I mean, they only do it a couple times, but
They do like it.
yeah. Yeah, it was a kick they were on. They were definitely trying to get at something there, and that seems like the most reasonable theory I've ever heard about it.
It only took 8 years.
Wow. Okay. You know what? I just cannot say that the commentaries are not productive anymore. I mean, wow.
I guess we can still pull something out of our hats here.
Holy shit. I swear I don't think we've ever thought of this
No,
on
I
the
don't think
podcast.
so. I don't think so. Out of all those hours.
Yeah, that never occurred to me, and it seems so clear. As soon as you said I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's what happened when you said it. I was like, the island? You mean like the cabin?
Yeah, 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 exactly. Exactly. It
Yeah.
was the first time it ever popped in my head, just like 2 seconds before you said it. Holy shit. There might be a connection there. And even on the podcast, I don't think we were like, oh, it's the eye of the island. It was more like, who is it? You know?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. It wasn't. We didn't look at it as a metaphor or a sign about who was in there. It was more about discovering the identity of the person.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, oh, is it Desmond? Is it
We're like looking at other people's eyes to
yeah,
see if they have the same eye, and it's kind of like, no, guys, we're saying that the eye of the island, the thing Locke saw, is in here now.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is true, and
Which is true.
it totally adds up when you put it that way. Yeah, it should have been a clue, but it wasn't for some reason.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. We looked at a clue and thought it was a mystery, and
Yeah, exactly.
it was actually like the answer to something, not a question to something.
Right, right.
Wow.
That was the problem. We were turning it into a who is it, and that wasn't what it was about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that makes me think, what other things that are questions are really
Or
answers?
we're actually answers. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point. Oh my god.
We got to keep that in mind of things that we are like, oh, what is that about? And it's kind of like, oh no, maybe that's answering something else, and
Right.
it's not about anything more than that.
Right, right. We're not supposed to wonder like it's the point is communicating something visually to the audience. Yeah, that's yeah, but it's like again they they could have made that clearer
hmm hmm
in the show, like it would have been Locke following the path. I mean, it all sort of fits in if he sort of interprets it as like the eye of the island is there, you
Yeah.
know, and he's following it, again. He's on that journey, that he feels like he's been on, to some extent with stops and starts the whole time. It totally works. But
Mm-hmm.
he never says that on screen. You know, so uh, so it never occurred to me. I wish, yeah, I wish they had been that Eye of the Island thing. I think is another thing they could have like brought home. They could have hammered home, if you will, like
Yeah.
much more clearly. Because I think they just kind of let it drop, and again, it's like it's these
It
scattered bits.
it would have been perfect if they would have tied in the Eye of the Island to the light cave.
Mm-hmm.
And it, because what Locke saw was beautiful, and maybe looking through Smokey, you see the source of the power. You see that
Right.
light in the light cave. And
Yeah.
so maybe the cork that he moves has like an eye on it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or some idea that that's he was seeing the underlying power or something behind Smokey. That's why it was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it would have been nice to tie that back in, especially when you had an Egyptian theme and they were big
Absolutely.
on eyes,
Oh yeah.
and the eye of an island kind of being like, the center of something of importance, So
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
again, they were right there and they just didn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean the explanation of like the two things was enough for me, but now you're tying in the Egyptian thing, the Cave of Light. It's like,
Hmm.
wow, it helps. It's like it does even more work than it needs to. Like
Yeah.
if you just insist on that point a little bit more, you know.
Hmm.
But it's like Locke doesn't worry about the Eye of the Island again, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like, but it's like, why not? Like, shouldn't that be? I mean, wasn't that a pivotal moment for him? Like, it's
That might have been,
disappointing.
yeah, that might have been an interesting, that might have been a very interesting way to describe Locke's journey, is if not that he's like necessarily, this walking some vague path of destiny, but he's trying to find the eye of the island.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
he's trying to find this beauty that he saw. And even to the point where when he sees Smokey again, he's like, no, that's not it.
Right.
Like, that's not what I'm after. I'm not
Yeah.
after that thing. I'm after what's behind that thing.
Right.
And that would have made the discovery and reveal of the Cave of Light so much more interesting
Yeah.
if it was literally this thing he was looking for, and it actually, this sort of metaphysical thing actually had a physical existence
Mm-hmm.
that they could find if they knew where to find it. and
Right.
and like, yeah, and again, like I said, it should have been Locke who was in the light cave sacrifice. Why Desmond was
Mm-hmm.
there? Desmond had not. I think they really screwed up on who the heroes of the story were,
Yeah.
who the heroes and the villains were. I think Desmond got a lot of attention from fans, and yeah, The
True.
Constant was a great episode,
Yeah.
but I think so much of the ending that he got should have been between Locke and Jack and more.
Yeah.
And it was weird to say, oh, by the way, Desmond's the guy who was pushing the button and made you guys get here in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
crash here. Like, he is also really important in all this, but
Yeah.
only in this very small context.
Right. Right.
Because he's not supposed to be the leader of the island,
Definitely not.
and he's not the villain, and he's
Definitely
not
not.
trying to do anything specific, but he
No.
just happens to have some ability that's going to come in handy.
No. No.
Like, it's
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's just about what he can do. And like he doesn't even want to. He's sort of dragged there against his will. I mean, his whole story is crazy. I mean, the way they have to sort of bend over in like crazy directions to make it work.
Yeah.
The fact that he's like brought to the island against his will, and then, you know, he visits his own afterlife. Okay, already already too crazy. But
Mhm.
then step two, he misinterprets what that means.
Yeah.
And as a result of his misinterpretation, he performs the heroic feats that he does at the end of the show because he thinks that the result of him going down there in the cave is that they're going to go to that place, you know.
Yeah.
immediately afterwards. He misinterprets what it means, and his misinterpretation is what drives him, and that's weird.
It is really, it's Don Quixote. It's really weird to be like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, it's
totally.
we're supposed to root for the guy who's got it wrong. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I mean, he is supposed to be a heroic character. And it's like, yeah, add to that the fact that it's Widmore zapping him into his own afterlife that leads to the waking up in the afterlife of him and the rest of the other
don't
characters.
add that. Do we have to add that?
I don't want
Can we
to,
get
but
that,
it's
can we get
like,
that on this, can we get that a la carte? We want that separate. I don't want that.
I mean, we can put it to the side, but I just had to throw it in because it's like there's such a pile of insane shit there that like I can't help but like make it a bigger pile. Because it's like really crazy, that story, and it's like, yeah, why is this story so strange and insane? And it's like, yeah, it's not really paying anything off. It's not like Desmond always had this desire to serve this particular kind of, he's not like Locke at all. He just
Yeah.
wanted to like hang out with Penny and fucking Charlie on the
Yeah.
yacht. Like, he didn't want any of that, and he just
Yeah.
happened to have this power, and he was kidnapped, and like forced to do this thing, and then he misinterprets visiting his own afterlife, and it's just like, what kind of story is that compared to like what should have been Locke's fulfilling of like what his story arc was clearly supposed to point to,
Yeah.
which is, like you said, like, yeah, searching for the eye of the island, and it really comes, and the smoke monster comes from that cave, so it
Yeah,
totally
exactly.
makes sense. It would tie in, and then, yeah, Egyptian symbology, you have a literal eye down there, it's a symbolic eye as well, it's the source of the power on the island, of course. Even the words they use in Across the Sea to describe it, it's reminiscent of what he says. So it all of that would just be such a nice story,
Yeah. Too bad we didn't get that.
Exactly. And what we did get is just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know?
Really insane.
I mean, when I say it out loud, it's like, that was the story? Like, really? It's unbelievable.
It's so full.
Like, when you narrate it out loud, it's just like, how did they pitch that? And they were like, yeah, this is,
Yeah, somebody gave a green light on that. I was like, yeah, okay, huh.
yeah, that's what we're gonna go with.
So he's gonna misinterpret the afterlife, which is what everyone's gonna remember about the show.
Yeah.
And he's gonna be wrong about that. Oh, and by the way, that's gonna have ripple effects in the afterlife. Where we're gonna have to watch these people do something I guess they wouldn't ordinarily do.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very so yeah, and that's what's weird, right? Is I don't even know how that works, right? Because the afterlife takes place outside of time. So, when Desmond is getting zapped on the island, that's at a time where after he's dead in the afterlife. It's just weird. How does that time sync up?
Oh, there is no now here.
There's no now here. There's no here now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. I wasn't even worried because it's already crazy,
Yeah.
But then, like, okay, yeah, how does the timeline work?
Why was Widmore even zapping?
That's a funny question. Ostensibly, he was zapping him to, like, as a test, I guess, because I mean, Jacob sent him there, and I guess the idea was it was a sort of warm up for what he was going to do in the cave.
But so what was the idea? Desmond was the only one to survive something, right?
Yeah.
What was it?
It was like a giant up close burst of electromagnetism or something like that.
From the hatch explosion?
Yeah, exactly.
That was Widmore's rationale that he would be able to withstand this because he had survived the implosion?
Yes.
Okay, that's really ridiculous.
What's ridiculous about that?
What isn't ridiculous about that?
A better question. Yeah. No, yeah, it's a crazy conclusion to jump to. Turns out he was right, but yeah. I mean, I guess we're supposed to believe that Jacob told him that or something.
Mm-hmm.
And like maybe Jacob sort of knows.
And why? Why was he able to withstand this energy?
Why? Did you just ask why?
Go ask why on your medical drama.
What kind of
Don't
question
ask
is
why
that?
on Lost. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm trying to backtrack and remember what they told us, and I'm trying to remember. So why was he able to withstand that? What does this have to do with the constant
I
and
really
those
don't
experiments?
I really don't think they give us a reason why. I mean, I think at one point maybe we speculated that it was just the fact that uh, he was exposed to it, like because he was down there for a long time. I mean, I think that's the closest thing I remember to a theory about like why. But I guess I came to believe it, think of it as sort of like his superpower. Like Miles has his thing and Hurley has his thing, and he just has this like resistance electromagnetism power, and the island sort of gave it to him somehow.
Hmm.
You know, like however that works.
Interesting.
That's my best. I mean, I'm not satisfied with that answer, but
Yeah.
what else can you say about why? I mean, I don't know. Aside from having like a nice epiphany, like he's another. I don't know. You know,
Well, let's talk about that real quick.
I
No.
don't know how to solve the problem.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think that's as close as we can get on that one. I'm just trying to go back and think, but yeah, I think that's as good of a why as anything. It's inexplicable why.
Yeah,
So that's her why.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, we're gonna see here coming up like all of Desmond's big story points pretty shortly. So maybe we'll spot something that'll sort of make it become clear all of a sudden. But
Yeah, and see, he's got that whole thing with Miss Hawking, right? So yeah, that's it's all. There's so much more going on than just the main. And that's again, it's an ensemble story, but it totally dilutes the character arcs for the bigger characters because you have all this time with Desmond and Miss Hawking and what that's all
yeah,
about and the fact that she knows about the island and she's
right.
tied into this thing and the whole thing with Dan and her
Mhm.
son and Widmore and it almost works.
Mhm.
It's almost like Desmond should have been her son from another marriage or something. I mean, that would have been weird with Penny, obviously.
Right.
But or I guess they wouldn't have been technically
Yeah,
biological.
they would have been like some weird relationship. I don't even know what you call that. Like step double brothers. I don't know.
Wait, what is the double from?
I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know what to call it. Like,
Well, I'm thinking Widmore is not his dad.
right? No, I guess it's just that they each had a parent that were previously married.
Uh-huh. So they would
Like
just
maybe
be
there's not a name for
step
that.
siblings, right?
Yeah, I get. Well, sort of like
Well,
former.
if they had gotten married, if Widmore and Hawking got married,
Right.
then Penny and Desmond would be step brothers and sisters, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they're sort of like ex step brother and sister. I don't know.
Okay. That's not too bad.
Yeah,
That's as it could be. But I'm
yeah,
just saying, like in terms of this all making sense with this like family dynamic that's very involved with the island, like
right.
and with Desmond involved, it's like if Desmond was a Hawking, like that kind of would have been cleaner, you
Yeah,
know.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, Hawking's whole thing with Desmond was never really explained at all. So yeah, it would be nice if it was sort of more personal for her. Actually, her whole role in the show, I feel like, is never really explained.
Yeah.
I mean, the story with her and Dan like works in a self-contained way, but then when you throw in the stuff with Desmond and also the stuff that she does with the Oceanic Six and the station and all, like, I don't understand that at all.
I felt like what they wanted her character to be was the character who is on the sidelines the whole time, kind of working against the villain, and kind of comes in at the last minute to kind of help out the hero, with this
Hmm.
information. And I feel like she does that in a way,
Yeah.
but I feel like the idea should have been that because she was on the island, she knew the island was crazy. She ended up killing her own son
Hmm.
before she even gave birth to him or whatever,
Right.
and that should have tied her into investigating the island, what's going on, discovering Man in Black, and discovering like that he's got a plan.
Right.
And then she spends the next 40 years or whatever trying to, because the whole thing about this war that's coming, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
she should have been preparing for this war that's coming.
Right.
And I feel like, she's there for that same kind of level of information, but they didn't really, it wasn't as solid as that, of like, really making her character integral to what's going to happen at the end of the show.
Yeah. 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 No, you're right. I wish they had tied that in. Um, I think I think also like in terms of her, so she's another, so I at least have that answer, right? But
Yep.
like I definitely feel like there's some strangeness with the story of her and sort of the Man in Black's plan, because like at the same time that she helps the Oceanic Six go back, and certainly like uh, Jacob and the Man in Black wanted that to happen. So that's one
Mhm.
strange story point where they both agree they want this, and so yeah, that
Yeah.
it's a little weird when the
Hero and the villain want the same thing.
exactly
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
usually isn't like the formula that's used in stories.
Yeah.
So you have that on the one hand, but on the other hand, you also have this whole thing that she has about Christians. Sorry, excuse me, about Locke's body. And like he serves as a proxy for Christian and like recreating the events of the original Oceanic Six
Yeah.
fight, and sort of like where those ideas even come from, and her thing of like making Locke a proxy and like how important it was that he had
Hmm.
to be there. I mean, that really plays into the Man in Black's plan
Yeah,
quite
it seems like she's working for him.
exactly. And I remember in season 6 like expecting some sort of reveal about that,
Yeah.
where we sort of find out that like, oh, she was actually in on that thing, but they never really tell us either way. Like why she even said, if she wasn't working for Man in Black, then why did she do those things? Cuz Locke's body didn't need to be there.
Well, the problem I think is she has no idea who Man in Black is. I think that's probably a safe bet. Most of these people are operating thinking that the island, I'm assuming that the island is just this force, and they don't really know about Man in Black. So I feel like she's just not in. So whatever she's thinking that the island wants her to do, she's not. She doesn't know where it's coming from.
Right. Right. But it's a little bit, it's strange because you have Widmore where he at least at some point close to that time, like he has direct, according to him, again, off-screen stuff, contact with Jacob, and presumably, I mean, he does seem to know who Man in Black is when he shows up. He's got the fences, he knows, he talks about the stories of the jungle noises and stuff like this. I mean, he seems to know he's the smoke monster. He impersonates dead people. He's Jacob's
Hmm.
enemy. All of that stuff, And so it's like Widmore. See, I would assume that Jacob just told him, probably,
Hmm.
and that would be logical. Did he tell Miss Hawking that stuff? I mean, he goes and kidnaps Desmond, and Miss Hawking was there. I mean, they could have talked about it, but did they? Was she in any way
You
like?
sound skeptical.
Yeah, well, I just.
So here's a thought I had. Another. This is how they could have fixed it. What if so Widmore is told to get Desmond bring back to the island by Jacob, and Hawking is told or pulls it out of her ass that Locke needs to go back to the island.
Mm-hmm.
What if when Locke gets back to the island, he's resurrected, but it's Jacob who's inside of him?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
Jacob, and it's Jacob who ushers everybody out of the temple because
yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
like they don't need to be worshiping him anymore. It didn't work
Mm-hmm.
out, and and uh, and then somehow Jacob dies, and Locke then Locke is back or something as
Mm-hmm.
the leader of the others. But it's just, why is Man in Black the one who goes into his body?
Right.
Like, why is that guaranteed?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's strange. It's really strange
Yeah.
because it's like she really, that was a crucial piece of his plan. I think if Locke's body hadn't been on that plane, it would have made things really different when he shows up.
Yeah.
Like that was the whole reason why uh, it was so crazy and why Ben was so impressed and frightened of him. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
because he really thought I mean, he knew he murdered him. He knew he was dead, and he
Yeah.
knew his body was on that plane. And suddenly he's walking around in the same clothes, and it's like, you know, it's a perfect. But if his body wasn't on the plane, I
Mm-hmm.
think I think that would have made a difference. It would have
Yeah.
it would have introduced like some doubt and some skepticism, and it would have changed things. I think. I don't think his plan could have been carried off as well, and so it's like he depended on the help
Oh
of
wait.
someone.
Okay, now I'm remembering. Okay, he wasn't in Locke's body. He was just impersonating Locke,
He was
right? Because they
impersonating. Yeah,
found Locke's
Locke's
body.
body was still there. Yeah,
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, so he is using his Man in Black power. Okay, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
using Man in Black power. I was thinking the corpse was resurrected. It's
Right, right, right. No, no, no. Luckily not.
a little
Though
too
maybe he
much.
could have done that for all we know.
With the telekinesis, yeah, who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah.
Weekend at Lockie's.
Exactly. Exactly. I was thinking more resurrection, but that would be a lot funnier.
Yeah, where Locke is just like walking around like a marionette doll, and Man in Black is using the telekinesis from the bushes, like making Locke do silly stuff.
I would like to see that episode.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, we're not gonna solve any of that stuff right now.
Obviously not. Those are like major questions, but I do think they sort of tie in with stuff that's like starting right now.
Yeah.
So there is at least a link. Because this button thing is leading right into Desmond, and once we get to him,
It's a lot of Desmond.
yeah, yeah. No, but I think you're right. I mean, I think part of it was just that he was a very popular character, and I think that's part of why they wanted to make him so important.
Hmm.
But I think his storyline didn't work very well organically with the role they wanted him to play. So it just
Yeah,
it comes out kind of awkward.
it is an awkward storyline.
Yeah. Yeah, when you summarize it, it just sounds like fucking ridiculous. So it's just like that it shouldn't be like that because it's important. I mean, it's pivotal for the whole show, really.
Hmm.
It shouldn't be so like bizarre and hard to. That shouldn't be the reaction you have, I think.
Yeah.
Jack's storyline is much more, well constructed, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like Jack's the one where they knew. It wasn't about what the audience thought or what they changed their minds to over time. I mean, I think they knew probably from the beginning of the show that Jack would have an arc like that.
Yeah.
even if they didn't know the specifics of what the plot would be, where that arc would fit in. I think they knew he would go from the person he is at the beginning to the person he is at the end, and that's why it works, because they really sort of layered in those steps along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And Desmond's story just doesn't feel like that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, because he goes from what to what.
He doesn't really. That's the thing. He goes. I mean, he's the same way basically for the whole show, which is just like, I want to be off the island. I want to be with Penny. Period. End of story. Yeah. To oh, I went to this other world where I'm happy, and now I want to do that, even though it was actually the afterlife. And so now,
yeah, it's kind of like, it's interesting that he decides to give up spending more time with Penny in real life.
Yeah.
Than to just give up and go to the afterlife.
Yeah.
That's interesting because she's not like it's not like she's dead, right?
Right. No, not at all. Not at all. And I mean, my interpretation from the end of the series is that, I mean, eventually he goes back to her in real life, So there's no, but it's like he didn't understand that it was the afterlife. So he thought it was some like alternate universe, like the audience did, So like that somehow once since Widmore zapped him and he went there, he thought, oh, when I do the real version, I'll like be there permanently.
That's right, yeah.
And Penny's there, so I'll be with her, and that's who I want to be with. So I should do this, But it's a leap. It's a big leap he's making there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's wrong. We know he's wrong.
Yeah. He should have known he's gonna be wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's like that's not really an arc, He's the same character until like the last minute when he has an epiphany that's incorrect. And it's like, that's Desmond. It's like, that's what kind of story is that?
A great one.
I like Desmond, but seriously,
Now, if you wrote out his storyline, you would scratch it out and start again, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's see. He runs a solo race around the world, gets stuck on an island, gets forced to press a button until the guy who was forcing him shoots himself, or whatever. Or no, he kills himself.
Rosinski was the one who quote unquote shot himself.
Yeah. No, until he kills him. Then he's alone for a while. Then people find him. Then he escapes the island, only to be trapped on the island and come back anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go through all of that. Yeah, I mean, that's enough to start over.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, what other ideas do you have?
Let's say we don't do that.
We can go ahead and scratch that off the list just right now. Let's rethink all of that.
Yeah.
If a character is that important, I mean, yeah, I think there needs to be an arc there. There needs to be but not just this sudden bizarre experience that gives him a misinterpretation that leads to his motivations. It's just like,
yeah, the problem is he didn't have anything that he was questioning like all the other characters really had. He knew the button did something. He knew the island did something.
Yeah.
And so he didn't really have anything to question. It was more of, I guess he was more like Man in Black, where there was just this obstacle in his way.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like he wasn't really invested in it outside of the fact that he was forced to be in that situation. Mm-hmm. But he didn't really care particularly about the island insofar as like it, continues to exist and provide whatever it provides to the rest of the world. Like it was just like, damn it, I keep getting stuck here. I want to leave. And that was it. And that was the reaction of a lot of characters to the island. So I mean, it's fine. Mm-hmm. But it's also kind of unsatisfying because he plays such a pivotal role in protecting the island.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine that Sun and Jin were never invested in the island. It's not like, They're not climbing down the cave at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's no problem.
No, they didn't make it out of the sub.
Exactly. Exactly. Now that's got its own problems, but you know.
Yeah, that's its own issue of just like, why did they die now? I don't really get why they have to die.
Yeah, it was a weird decision that I've yet to understand. And of course, again, the way they portrayed it was problematic for no reason.
The bomb on the sub was a weird
Oh my
part.
God, what a mess that plot was.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That was speaking of Man in Black. Man in Black, the bomb expert.
Yeah, well, there was so much confusion about like the bomb and like where he got it from and who
Yep.
put it there. Wasn't it like just
Oh,
way too messy?
it was extremely confusing. Oh my God, I was so. Oh my God. Yeah. The plotting was so bizarre in those like final things. It was like, holy shit, what do they think?
Yeah, those last episodes were really bad. The
Yeah.
plotting was really weird, and
Yeah. It's like it shouldn't be this much work,
I remember
right?
when like Widmore's firing on Jack and the others
Mhm.
with missiles, and I'm like, what am I
Oh my
watching?
God.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Aren't you guys on the same team? Why are you doing that now? Wait.
Yeah, that was really strange. Oh, Whitmore.
He
Yeah.
brought his missiles.
Yeah, I feel like Jacob didn't even tell him to bring missiles. He was just like,
Started to leave your missiles at home, and he's
he,
like, yeah, right.
Jacob just told him what he had to do, and he was like, right, all right, well, I'm gonna need missiles.
Yeah. It's first step, pack the missiles.
Yeah, exactly. And then he just starts firing missiles, and it's like, wait, you're firing at the people you're supposed to protect. Like, what? What are you doing? What are you doing, Whitmore?
Yeah, there's a lot of sitting around that last season, and a lot
Hmm.
of like,
Way too much sitting around.
yeah.
Wait.
Sawyer, can you go over to the island?
Hmm.
Can't you go over to the island? Maybe.
You
And
think
then
if I could, I'd be here?
and maybe I did go over already and kill those
Ugh.
people. Maybe I didn't. Who's to know?
Exactly.
I don't know. Why do they have to be coy about the villain's motives in the
Mhm.
final moments of the story?
It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. It's so strange. It's bizarre. I will never understand.
It's like I get doing that in the beginning. I get if doing that
Mhm.
for a new character, you don't know if you can trust them, but
Mhm.
for somebody who's supposed to be the bad guy and who's supposed to be going after something, we should know what they're doing and why and how. Like
Mhm.
it shouldn't just be this weird mystery of, well, maybe he can fly over water
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, like why not? I
or
mean,
get a boat. Like
because I feel like they make this leap that doesn't really make sense to me. Like he says, you think if I could do that, I'd still like it's sort of like if he could fly to Hydra Island, then he could fly to like Australia or something.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
I feel like that doesn't quite add up.
yeah,
Like
stuff
I
doesn't
feel
really
like
make sense.
it's totally possible that he's contained within, a sort of radius, around the island because they showed they have a barrier there, you know like that was a subplot. Like there's some kind of barrier to leaving the island, and even if you're on a boat, you don't have to be a smoke monster. You can't just like sail away from the island if
Yeah.
unless you're on this correct like bearing or whatever you know
Hmm.
so I feel like it's totally possible that he could fly over the water, but he couldn't leave the area.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, why not? Seriously, like you're a smoke monster, like why not? I mean, is it really that crazy?
Or
But
was it just he's trying to say I can't change form now because I'm in Locke's body or something? Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was hard to tell like what he meant.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Except he could. I mean, he could. I mean, he did it many times. So like, he should have been able to, unless like he can't do it at certain times a day, or maybe it makes him tired, or like who knows. He
Yeah.
just doesn't want to. But yeah, I agree. It's like if he killed the Ajira, so like the encyclopedia says Widmore did it, which again like puts a
Well,
another sort
maybe
of
maybe Man in Black told them to say that.
it's hilarious. Oh my god. But it puts another like layer of ambiguity into the story that like frustrates me even more. It's just like what?
Mhm.
The guy that Jacob sent there just like killed all these innocent people for no reason. It's just like
Yeah, and the guy who would have killed all those innocent people didn't.
right. Exactly. Exactly. Because it's like it's nothing if Man in Black killed them. We see him do a massacre of the temple, on the same scale. So it's like,
Yeah,
of course he would kill them. He even talks to Richard about killing them.
yeah.
Specifically at the end of season 5, he's like, yeah, we got to take care of those Ajir passengers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. It's like he even suggested he wanted them killed. So it's just like, but then it's like the answer is no, no, no,
Oh
he
man,
didn't
I
do
just
it.
I just wonder if it's like if you ask Widmore, okay, describe Jacob, and he's like, okay, well, he's tall, dark hair, beard, goatee, uh, looks a little bit like evil incarnate.
Oh my god.
I just like how does he know Jacob is Jacob? Like just because he says
Totally.
I'm Jacob, how do you know that that's Jacob?
Totally. Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
everything he seemed to have done helped Man in Black.
Right.
Just about. I mean, except for the Desmond stuff, I guess, but
Yeah. But the thing is, actually, it's possible. Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't really know because, of course, they were vague about it. But like, it did seem as though perhaps turning him mortal sort of would set him free to leave the island. You know, so
hmm
like maybe Desmond being there actually could have helped him because really, he's about to like go off the cliff and like jump on his boat and leave.
Oh yeah, so you're saying yeah, that could have been part of his plan. Like, okay, I need Desmond to move that cork so I can be mortal and then leave the island
Yeah, yeah,
because
like
then the force keeping me here will be deactivated. So I can
exactly.
at the very least. So yeah, exactly. He wants to be able to leave then. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's about to leave. I mean, the only thing that stops him is Jack shows up and
Mm.
challenges him, and so it's like, but maybe he could have just sailed off and like Widmore would have helped him in the end. And like he kills Widmore because he's through with him,
Yeah.
because he doesn't really care, and yeah, would be great. I would love that. And the fact that they leave it off screen, the meeting of Widmore and Jacob leaves it again ambiguous, whereas they
Mhm.
could have told us
Yeah.
what really happened, and it could have been an interesting reveal to have some kind of further sort of manipulation going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? As soon as they get there, Widmore and their team, they're looking for those energy pockets. They're looking for the
Hmm.
light cave,
Hmm.
and yeah, like Man in Black is the only one. Because why does Jacob care about the light cave?
So
Like,
like
does he?
I think Jacob wants them to unplug the light cave because it's gonna make the smoke monster mortal, then they can kill him.
And Jacob never did this because.
Um, uh, because he didn't have
Pass.
Desmond. Like, yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Okay,
He,
so he does. Okay, so that's right. He does. He does know about all that stuff. Okay.
yes, yes. I mean, that's basically what he tell. I mean, he tells Jack to like get Desmond and to
Yeah.
go down there and yeah, like the idea is that they're gonna kill him with this, and so it works for both purposes, which makes it hard to sort of decide uh, who benefits more.
hmm
Who should really be behind this whole thing? Because yeah, like there was a slight Widmore. Uh, what do I want to say? Like there, Widmore was having nightmares, and I certainly could sort of buy into the idea of sort of Man in Black actually manipulating Widmore to do what he wants, you know.
Yeah.
And telling him he's Jacob. It's not like it's the first time he's pretended to be representing Jacob.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we know he did that. We saw him do it. You know, so why not? You know, but
Yeah.
they don't tell us that, like so many things.
So many. Well, okay.
Obviously, we can't resolve these issues right now, but these are things we will be looking at as the more significant episodes start to roll in. I mean, I think this episode was pretty up there as far as like introduce like having some of these big forces in play.
Yeah.
Even though like it's not actually the focus of the episode. I mean, that's what's kind of interesting about stuff like this in the show to me. You have like it's a primary motivating force that like is kind of behind what the characters do in the episode, but no one in the episode really questions the source.
Yeah.
You know?
No one's looking at the bigger picture.
Exactly.
They're looking at, because the small picture is blowing their mind enough.
Exactly. They're focused on that issue. Just what about the hatch? What about the button? What about Dharma? What about this stuff? And they're not really thinking, but what about these dreams? Who's sending me these dreams? Who wants us to do what here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, no one's
why.
Exactly. They're not thinking along those lines at all. And I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was a good episode for Question Mark. What's next? 3 minutes?
3 minutes. The famous 3 minutes.
Three whole minutes. The shortest lost episode ever.
It's gonna, yeah. It might be the longest podcast. Probably not, though.
Might be. No, well.
Let's be realistic. I don't think we're ever gonna beat 30 whatever hours. Oh my god.
Oh jeez.
That's a tough one.
That's a big one.
Yeah. You can only do that one.
Okay, well, until next time, thanks and namaste.
Namaste and good luck.